Hi everybody, welcome to Soul Talk, and for another soul empowerment we are going to introduce you a beautiful concept which is called as the dark feminine energies, the dark goddess. We are all so used to seeing the world through the keyhole के एक उसके बाहर भी एक दुनिया है, बहुत बड़ी दुनिया है, बहुत बड़ी शक्ति है, बहुत बड़ा पावर है और उस पावर के बहुत से वर्जन्स हैं। तो आज हम टैप करेंगे एक अलग ही माध्यम, अलग ही मीडियम से कि ये जो डार्क गॉडेस एनर्जीज़ है, जिसे हम लिलित भी कहते हैं, जिसे हम महाकाली भी कहते हैं या तो हिकाते भी कहते हैं, ये सारी एनर्जीज़ हमें कैसे हेल्प करती है कि हम अपनी ज़िंदगी में आगे कैसे बढ़े। हमारा सोल ये एनर्जीज़ क्यों चुनता है, क्यों हम इसे इन्वोक करते हैं अपनी लाइफ में और कैसे ये हमारे साथ काम करती है। एक बहुत मज़ेदार एपिसोड के साथ हम ये शुरू करने वाले हैं डॉक्टर स्नेहा एस के साथ में। तो आइए देखते हैं। वेलकम स्नेहा एस and thank you for being on this podcast. And I would like to know, in your own words, what amazing journeys that you take the people into and how this transformation happens. So could you talk a little bit about yourself before we dive deep into the subject?
Definitely. Firstly, thank you so much for having me here. It's a great opportunity and I would love to share what we have been doing.
Thank you.
So, my partner and I, we founded Unlom project about 8 years ago. And the intention behind it has been for a person to dive deep into themselves and work from that platform of wholeness rather than just fixing problems superficially. So we take individuals into a deep dive into their journey, into their souls, so that they can really address root cause and then come out of it in a completely wholesome way. That's what we've been doing through our workshops called 9 Steps to Nothing, 9 Nights of the Goddess. So we work with Advaita Vedanta, with Shakti tradition, as well as the mystical traditions like Sufism and Buddhism as well.
Okay.
So we blend all of these together and bringing in that understanding, because in the modern world what an individual really needs is this understanding, not just at one level, not just through the books, but this holistic understanding through philosophy, through psychology, as well as ancient wisdom, and how it can apply to your life today.
Okay. So as I'm understanding, you are kind of hand-holding them into this journey?
Yes, so we have made containers. So all these journeys are like containers. You can say 9 Steps to Nothing is a 21-day container. 9 Nights of the Goddess is like a 9-day container. And Fire of the Goddess is a 5-day container. So we hold space that way. Because our intention is that every individual can become their own person. They don't need us after a while. So it's like this container is enough for them to, deep dive, to articulate what's going on, to rise above. And then they are free to walk their paths on their own journey.
So most of the people might not know, what is the holding the space concepts,
Right.
So as we all healers, we understand these concepts, but our viewers, so can you go more in depth about what exactly kind of you do when you are, taking them depth into this deep dive journeys, and I know for sure that they are deeply transformational. बहुत कुछ कचरा निकलता है जो हम झेल नहीं पाते हैं। मैंने बहुत एक्सपीरियंस है, आपका भी मैंने एक एक्सपीरियंस किया हुआ है। द फायर ऑफ द गॉडेसेस बहुत पावरफुल था। सो एज आई अंडरस्टैंड डॉक्टर स्नेहा एस दैट देयर इज़ अ कॉन्शियसनेस ऑफ शक्ति, तो शक्ति दो प्रकार की होती है। एक शक्ति होती है जो हमें ऊर्जा देती है, जो हमें ग्रोथ देती है, नर्चर करती है, विच अलाउज अस टू एम्पावर, So like we have the concept of, the Brahma and the Vishnu and the Mahesh, where, the Brahma is the creator, फिर Vishnu है जो administrator है, and the Shiva energy comes when we are kind of going into the transformation. So once that transformational energy comes and then something shift and we go on to a higher cycle. So similarly, I think with the Shakti also, can we say the same thing, that we have a nurture, a creator energy, something like Parvati, okay, or maybe like Apollo or Aphrodite, and then we have a nurturing which is like Maa Lakshmi or, like other goddesses, Isis for example, and then we have a transformational energy which is like the Kali, the Chinnamasta, the Hekate, the Lilith, So these are the dark, not the dark, but the transformational side of the Shakti. So can we say that this is there, like these energies are working in that particular way? how do we go with this? What are these dark goddesses, like as you call them? The Shakti is being into two parts, so this the second part, which is a transformational energy, that is more like the dark goddesses. So I would like to know, what are the dark goddesses and how you're working with that amazingly intense transformational side of the dark goddesses and their consciousness.
Right. So when we talk about Shakti, Shakti is known as the creative life force energy.
Yes.
It's inherently not necessarily labeled into, like this goddess or that goddess. Shakti is Shakti. It's a flow of energy.
Okay.
That's how it's been labeled. But when we're talking about archetypes, now there is dark goddess archetype and there is light goddess archetype. Light goddess, like you mentioned, where Lakshmi, the nurturing aspects,
yes,
come under that understanding. But when we talk about the dark goddess archetype, we are kind of talking about the goddesses which are not just telling you about necessarily the positive things, because yes, we have that, right? We are doing the positive, but this is the goddess which is telling you, let's look at the pain, not just the what's been good in your life, but the pain, the real deal, because that's something we as human beings have learned to really suppress, because we are walking in this world with binaries, right? Jahan pe, there's good versus bad.
Yes,
polarities exist,
yes,
constantly.
Yes.
Success versus failure, right? Dark versus light,
yes.
Right? So we are constantly working in this world, looking through life as this, these dualities.
Dualities, yes.
And what the dark goddess does is she helps us integrate this understanding. She's calling that these polarities are not separate, but one cycle.
Okay.
The sides of the same coin, in that sense.
Okay.
So when we are working with the dark goddess, her main intention is that she's saying, what have you deemed right? What have you deemed wrong? And who has done this? Right? Is it our mind? Who has done this? When you ask these questions, कि किसने किया है ये? आपने कैसे सोचा ये सही है, ये गलत है? Right?
तो वो तो हमारी morality के हिसाब से होता है कि अलग ही.
This is conditioning of our mind. Our minds have been conditioned because of our society, of the way we have been brought up. Because what is good for one not necessarily is good for another, right? So this is not the absolute truth. When I'm talking about good and bad, it's not an absolute truth. It's a construct.
Yes.
Created by human beings.
Yes.
Created by society. Created by conditioning. Right? So the dark goddess is about, let's integrate all of this. And why she's talking about it in today's time especially, we have learned to suppress parts of ourselves. Like we suppress things like anger.
Yes.
We suppress our sadness, depression, right?
Yeah, a lot of our emotions are actually suppressed. Only what we express is, I think, 5%, 10%, or maybe less. I'm not sure. Can you help?
We suppress most of it.
Really?
What are we? Yeah, because what are we doing? What is social media doing? Social media is currently, adding this, be positive, right? It's all about be positive, be positive. And nobody is saying that you can't be positive if there is a lot of things going on inside. If you are in pain and then you're putting be positive on that, that's not the way it heals. You first need to look at that pain. Where is it coming from? You need to understand these emotions. Allow them, experience them, let them rise. Let them integrate within you so that you can then come from a wholesome place. Otherwise, it's a conflict inside because you're trying to put positivity over something which is not.
So it's kind of like we are imposing a lot of positivity.
Yes.
Knowingly, unknowingly. The society right now is doing that,
be positive.
in the name of being positive. I think a lot of negative is being pushed down to us, because now we also have to. It's a battle for so many people to stay positive. And in that battle, sometimes we are showing so much of our emotions down that is again like a negative thing that is imposed on us, in the guise of being positive.
Exactly.
Is that
Exactly. So because see, things like everyone's okay about let's be happy. Yeah, happiness is badhiya.
Yeah.
Happiness, excitement, ये सब बढ़िया.
And that's what social media talks about the whole time. They're showing the best of the life moments and all of that.
And nobody shows what's really going on, right? But what about things like your anger, your grief, your sadness, the pain, trauma? Yeah. And what happens when we do not work with this? When we start being like, I didn't have time to grieve. I'm so busy with work that I didn't have time to grieve. What happens then? You have just pushed this emotion away. It's not gone anywhere. It's festering inside. And from there, you're functioning in the world. तो क्या होता है when हम लोग उस जगह से जब function करते हैं तो हम लोग completely हम authentic नहीं रहते. हम एक pretense सामने लाते हैं. We're kind of pretending into the world. So we're pretending we are fine, but inside there is pain.
But do we know that we are doing it, or it's a subconscious pattern?
It's mainly because we've learned what are we taught? जब कोई रोता है तो बोले रो मत.
हाँ,
right?
Exactly.
So what are we taught? रो मत मतलब रोना बुरा है ना.
हाँ जी.
So of course it's suppressed. It's so suppressed and so unconscious that people don't even know they're functioning from this. Sometimes we don't even know why we are triggered, why that particular thing is causing this emotion. We have no idea of these things. Yeah,
sometimes random things and people, why I would say about myself, but generally about the people also, random smallest things, and we are triggered very badly, so you mean to say that that is caused because of all the suppression that we have experienced?
Absolutely. It's the unconscious. It's the unconscious that's ruling our world, and we are walking around with that unconscious constantly. So anybody has the key to trigger us, and we ourselves are not achieving our highest potential or living our truth because we ourselves don't know what we have suppressed. We are kind of fitting into conditioned worlds in the society.
Oh, that's again a very deep problem.
Yes, it is.
Because it actually also means that we are not expressing ourselves at 100%. Forget 100%. I don't know if you're even expressing ourselves at 10% also.
Yeah.
So that means there is a whole 90%. Okay, that is why the dark goddess or the dark emotions or the dark feeling.
Yes.
Oh, okay. The things which are behind us, which are not in the thing, so shadows. Yeah.
Yes.
So jo chupa hua hai.
Haan.
Okay.
So the dark goddess, what is she saying? She's saying look at these things head on, directly. And why is she saying that? So that your shadow self can be integrated. So that you stop pretending and you stop trying to be all these, be nice, be polite, be this. It doesn't mean you're going to be now rude and all of that, but you're going to speak your truth rather than trying to please somebody.
So that means in our history and in mythology, these goddesses are actually the representation of our hidden self.
Yes, absolutely.
Am I correct?
Yes, yes, you can say that.
Yeah. So that means whichever, spirituality, let's talk about spirituality. In all the aspects of spirituality, there are various energies, like we have said. So could you point out some of them, and how is it that you work with those things, which energies you work with, so that our dark part or the hidden self is then exposed, or how these goddesses help us.
Right. So these goddesses, when we're talking about energies, is nothing but a reflection within. In the work that we do at Unlom Project, we are not talking or asking anyone to go and pray to a deity. Okay. But we are saying that these archetypes, these goddesses or this goddess energy is within you. Okay. It's about activating them. Okay. It's about connecting with them and, kind of raising your inner power. So it's like unleashing your inner power, because this is all inside of you. Even when I do the 9 nights of the goddess journey, right?
Yes.
So it is we are tapping into 9 different archetypes of the goddess, and each archetype is giving you one attribute. जो बाहर कहीं नहीं है, वो अंदर है.
हाँ. Again, that's what I wanted to ask was these. We have all the archetypes in us.
Absolutely.
And we are not even aware of it.
We are not aware. It's about invoking them within ourselves. Invoking them within ourselves and connecting to that divinity through these archetypes.
So we have so much of potential of which we are totally unaware.
Absolutely.
Is what you are trying to say.
Yes.
Wow.
The potential is we're unaware of this only because we have learned to be okay with everything. We become okay. Acha ye aisa tha, matlab relationships, for example. It's gone. Acha, okay. Let's be. But what about your real expression? Life is not just this one, conditioned box. Ye aise template hai.
Okay.
So the dark goddess is about, let's break all the myths. Who's created conditioning, right?
Okay.
Who has created society? It's like a, what do you say? It's a progressive thought
Okay.
where she's used as a symbol for new, for the
Okay.
renewal of things.
Yes.
So that and the whole idea is that destroy the old so that the new can emerge.
It can emerge. Yes.
So the dark goddess is constantly working with destruction and creation.
So, like when you mention this, I think what you're trying to somewhere say is that it is moving into our own independence. This dark goddess concept
Absolutely.
is actually kind
Your
of
authentic power.
Okay.
Your absolute truth.
Okay. So could you explain that to our audience in, maybe through an example or something, very random thing, we are going through a lot of stress. So any one example where you can understand, people can understand कि अच्छा ये तो मेरे साथ भी हो रहा है और मैं भी ऐसे ही कर रही हूँ या कर रहा हूँ and I am suppressing maybe this emotion and that emotion. And supposing if I'm triggered, then this particular aspect or this particular part of me comes. Can you just help with that?
Sure. So in a very simple understanding, like what sometimes everyone's just doing things, right? So it's like you can say you're going to a job, but you're not really satisfied with the job, but you're still doing it. Okay,
Yes.
you're in a relationship.
Yes.
Yeah. But you're not completely involved in the relationship. Something is still holding you back. And you're not having that fullest expression what a relationship can bring. Right?
Okay.
So these are the points when you see that this is not fitting into the bill.
Okay.
Now what's happening in our world today is that everyone's just become used to कि ऐसा ही है. Life is just this, just do this.
Okay.
But that is not living fully, because finally at a certain point you're going to encounter those things where you can see that where is the love gone, where are the things gone, why am I not progressing? So it's about reflection. And what the dark goddess does, or working with the dark goddess allows you, is she gives you strength. She says bas, enough. Enough is enough. Okay, now take charge of your life.
Okay.
So she brings in that strength. So when we connect with her through simple practices also, through either visualizations or just being absolutely true to yourself, like radical honesty with yourself,
Yes.
to be able to say that, what, I'm bullshitting myself right now.
Yeah. So for that person to realize that he is actually bullshitting with himself, I think that also needs a lot of awareness and deep thoughts.
Yes, absolutely. Now, what happens is life happens, right?
Yeah.
So when we lose somebody or a relationship breaks,
Yes.
that's when suddenly this deeper understanding comes, right?
Okay.
And that's what is mentioned, or is the understanding of the dark goddess, that she's there in those dark parts.
Okay.
She's there, you can probably picture her there, that she's there not to tell you that this thing is bad or this is has happened to you, but to find your strength there, to grow, to learn something deeper there, and to rise above.
Okay. So supposing if you are experiencing a loss, okay, many of us experience a loss of a person who has left, or a relationship that is broken, or sometimes it's a property or a job loss or something, that is kind of, let's deal with one emotion, for example, loss. So when you experience that, I think so we spiral down, because ये मेरे साथ क्यों हो रहा है, naturally when there is a somebody who is lost, that is a grief also. But supposing if there is a relationship break or a job loss or a money loss or trust loss or something, people go into the blame victim mode, and they spiral down.
Yes.
So where do this archetype then help us?
So this archetype then comes in the picture of saying that instead of now, suppressing this or trying to remove your mind away from this or distracting yourself,
Right.
Look at it. Look at the pain that is caused, that has happened to you.
Okay.
Yeah. See why that has happened. What were your belief systems for this pain to be taken this way?
Okay.
Because she's even talking about the absolute truth. Like, when you talk about life, there is death.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So she's not denying any of that. We are always, like human beings are kind of caught up in creation. But destruction ka kuch nahi. But that cycle needs to be understood, that it's a part of the two. So the dark goddess comes saying that do not deny that part. Integrate that part. Feel it fully. Feel the loss fully. Feel the pain fully. Allow it to, be experienced in yourself. Surrender to it. And then go beyond it. Don't suppress anything, any of your emotions.
Essentially, it's an acceptance of a particular emotion. It could be loss, it could be grief, it could be pain, it could be trauma.
Yes.
First thing I think is we need to accept it.
Yes.
And then the goddess will rise.
Yes.
And then she will help us.
Yeah, I mean, see, if you want to work with the dark goddess specifically, then there are ways.
Okay.
There are ways of doing it in like how I do it in my workshops, right?
Yes.
I have curated that journey where it's like what I was explaining about that, you know, the safe space, a container where we are journaling about these aspects.
Could you explain to our viewers and what are you doing? Because for them the concept of having a container or holding the space kind of not everybody will know it. So if you can explain to this what you do in this kind of sacred journeys, if you can help us with that.
Absolutely. So like for example, my Fire of the Goddess journey, it's a 5-day journey. And what are we working with? This is the dark goddess we are working with. We are working with Maa Kaali energy.
Okay.
And what we are doing here is, and we are also following the moon cycle. So we start this journey with the full moon.
Okay.
And dark goddess or Maa Kaali represents that complete destruction of the self. And this does not mean we are destroying ourselves. This is meaning destruction of the self, matlab destroying those parts of ourselves which are not working for us. Like the part that is pretending, the part which is not feeling full, the part which is feeling small. She's asking for complete destruction of those parts of the self.
Okay.
So in my journeys, what we do is we make the participants go through, we create intention, which is sankalpa. It's a very strong and important part which holds the journey together, because everyone's going through different phases. Then through the sankalpa, we have a whole routine is there where you are exploring different aspects with the understanding of the dark goddess archetype.
Okay.
Now the dark goddess is talking about look at your emotions, look at your relationships. So we do relationship work there.
Okay.
जहाँ पे हम लोग हमारे पेरेंट्स के बारे में या जो हमारे क्लोज रिलेशनशिप्स हैं उनको हम लोग माइक्रोस्कोप के अंदर नीचे लाते हैं, like we are holding
probe
it.
that there.
We are looking at it कि क्या हो रहा है यहाँ पे, because we are not experiencing a fullness in life, so we are looking at कहाँ से आ रहा है, because this we think we are these people, right? But we are not this.
Okay.
We are constructed, we are conditioned to be this. The real us is unconditioned. It's the awareness behind it all. But हमें idea ही नहीं होती है, because we are so made into this box, this label, this tight frame. Right? So here in this microscope, you're actually looking at ये हमारे belief systems आए कहाँ से हैं.
अच्छा.
Why am I behaving a certain way? What has been my opinion of the women in my life or the men in my life? How have I judged them? What do they mean to me? So we are going into these deeper questions. Then that gives us the understanding कि ये हमारे भी थे या नहीं. So that loses the grip of it. You lose the grip of the कहाँ से आ रहा है, and you find freedom in those moments. Okay. Because you're able to see another individual in their true light rather than this anger and the pain that we experience in relationship. So in my journey, we do this. We do journaling as one of the main things. Then we do something called, it's about, again, embodiment. Embodiment is a very important practice. हमें दिमाग में समझ आता है सब. But body is another vessel of ours, right? A body is this beautiful channel which stores as well as releases and experiences a lot, right? So embodiment practices, meaning there is guided visualizations, there is guided meditations.
Okay.
So that we are integrating it in our body. We are finding ways to release things in our body, stored emotions in our body. So we're not just doing the mind work, we're integrating it in the body.
Okay.
And finally, we are allowing ourselves to express as well. Expression through dance, expression through voice, expression through these different aspects.
Yes.
So what it does is we have broken out of that cycle.
Okay.
That cycle of a limited self. You already now have broken into this understanding that you were not that. You are this. A different possibility itself.
And it happens in 5 days.
It happens in 5 days. And all the journeys, like everything, we talk about how we exercise karna hai, ye wo, but it needs consistency.
Right.
This understanding कि when we have an issue we have to sit with it, learn, ये हमें कोई सिखाता नहीं है.
Okay.
Nobody tells us how to deal with problems. No, that's not something we learn in school, right? Like how are you supposed to deal with grief? How are you supposed to deal with jealousy? How are you supposed to deal with infidelity? कोई नहीं सिखाता, right? So when we are so this means that we can take this in our hands. So the journeys that I have is about leaving an individual capable of doing this themselves. Okay. So the cycle is such that how do we see what the problem is? What is the underlying cause of it? How do we heal it through the body? And how do we release it and create something powerful there? Okay. And that's something we're not taught in school. So through these journeys, you're on that repeat. Okay. And the more you do it, it becomes a part of yourself. And once it's a part of yourself, you don't have to do it. You just know your mind is working that way. You know that you have to take a pause. You know that you have to allow this emotion to move on. You know that you don't have to function out of that, immediate, but you can take a pause and function from there. But till it becomes a part of you, it's repetition of it, coming to these groups and doing it over and over again is absolutely essential, because like I said, nobody teaches us how to do these basic things and the most essential things in our life.
So what I'm understanding now, and just for the viewers also, that these are the side of us, the emotions of us that we have never actually even have the courage to face them.
Yeah.
Okay. So with the dark goddess energies, not only can we face them, but we can also release them.
Yes.
And we can then, whatever personality type of us which is paused or stopped into the growth, because I as an individual can be into multiple things. There are multiple personalities in me, okay, and together we are one personality. But at any given point of time, कोई ना कोई एक जैसा अगर मैं गुस्से में हूँ तो I might come out as a differently. If I am happy, I might come out as a different person. So ये जो dark energies है, वो हमारी in a way जो trapped personalities है, उसको निकाल के हमें एक wholesome और integrated person बनाती है.
Yes. So निकालना कुछ नहीं होता, it's integration.
हाँ,
integration basically, because it's not like these separate fragmented parts of ourselves are a part of ourselves. It's just that हमने इतना fragment किया है. कभी हम लोग बोलते हैं मैं ये नहीं हूँ, मैं ये हूँ, मैं वो नहीं हूँ, मैं ये हूँ. So it's about नहीं, आप सब कुछ हो. Can you be okay with that? Can you integrate all of that? Yeah, so even the dark goddess का this is also in the realms of desires. We know how to suppress our desires. We are suppressing everything that way, right? So it's about can we acknowledge them? Can we say, yes, these are my desires? Can you at least do that for yourself? Dark goddess is talking about that.
Yeah.
So it's becoming a whole person.
Like if I'm looking at the topic, and now I'm looking at Kali and Maa Kaali, I'm looking at her that she is completely unabashed. मतलब उनको कोई फ़र्क नहीं पड़ता उनके अगर if you look at her physically, she is very scantily dressed in that way, where she has got all the skulls, मंडमाला जैसे बोलते हैं वो है, इनके बाल पूरे बिखरे हुए हैं, एक बहुत विकराल रूप है उनका, and there is no way that she's trying to hide herself. She's just happy, or rather she's just existing as who she is. So somewhere I think your concept of dark goddess is actually giving us the power to be who we are, unabashed.
Absolutely. Your authentic self.
The authentic self.
Yes.
For example, if somebody is really, so most of the time in India, what I am understanding is that the women are too afraid to express their sensual part. They are just waiting for the men or the masculine to come around so that they can express themselves. But on their own, it's not very, they cannot do it. I think they have that conditioning.
Absolutely.
So when we embody the dark goddesses, I think that it gives them the courage to show that, yes, I have my needs, I have my desires, and there is nothing wrong with it. There's no taboo in that.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Absolutely. So the dark goddess is working on the shadow feminine aspect. We carry the shadow feminine and shadow masculine aspect. I'll explain that also.
Yes. That's a very new concept, right. I mean,
so
yes.
Another thing which I'd like to speak about is this, we are living in this patriarchal world, which is dominated by the shadow masculine. Now, when I use shadow masculine, everybody thinks ये gender based है, मतलब man and woman. ये वो नहीं है.
Okay.
Shadow masculine or shadow feminine is not about a man or a woman. It's right within us.
Okay.
We have these aspects of ourselves. Now, what is shadow masculine? Shadow masculine is that part of ourselves which is, which is bought into domination for power, right? Who is disconnected from the heart in a way, yeah. So you think about these, like maybe politicians who are more about power but not about how it will benefit people,
Welfare of the people. Yes, yes,
right?
yes.
Or you talk about CEOs of company who are looking at profit, but again not looking at how is it affecting the society or the environment. So we are currently living in a very shadow masculine structure. Society. It is true. Yeah. And that's where there's this movement that has come up, which had come up, right? Feminist movement that came up, which was kind of rebelling for equality and all of that, right?
Yes.
So that's another whole understanding, feminist, all of that.
Yes.
But what we're talking about, what the feminine or the dark goddess energy speaks about, is just not a war with the masculine, even as an embodiment, right? This is about, can we integrate and see that we are interconnected? We need each other to thrive. We're not here to suppress each other.
Okay.
Yeah. And what's happening is, because our world has become so much about validation, success means you have to have this. So climbing on somebody else, doing all these things, the narcissism has increased. And this has increased for men and women. When I'm talking about the shadow masculine, is high in both men and women. Because we've forgotten how to, kind of think about the welfare or think about a holistic understanding. And it's not our fault, it's the conditioning. हमें बोला है कि अगर आपको successful रहना है तो ये benchmark है, right? So we're chasing things after things.
Right.
Even social media क्या कर रहा है? Likes, followers, it's validation. We are all looking for validation.
Yes.
And when we don't get that validation, we think small of ourselves, right? So we are already living in a world which is dominated by this shadow masculine essence.
Okay.
Which is about, we need external validation. And isolation. Sabko isolate karo. Khud bhi isolate ho, isolating ourselves.
Okay.
Right? And the shadow feminine aspect is what? Now, what shadow feminine is experiencing is the smallness. Okay, she's experiencing smallness. She's experiencing lack in herself, and this manipulation. Now, that's also within us. When I talk again, within men and women. Not
it's not a gender thing. It is nothing to do with. So I can have a shadow masculine and a shadow feminine. I can have a Shiva or a Shakti.
Yes.
Okay.
We have Shiva and Shakti.
No, I'm just saying that if we have Shiva and Shakti as a man or as a woman today, you also have your own Shiva Shakti.
Yes.
Everybody has their own Shiva Shakti. So when we talk about, because that's a very big, myth or a misconception people have, that when we are talking about masculinity or femininity, they always associate it with gender. So it becomes very difficult. So when you say a word like a patriarchal shadow masculinity, people get very confused.
Yes.
कि ये क्या बोलना चाहते हैं, ये क्या बता रहे हैं, कि हम men क्या हम dark है क्या हम. No, I have experience when I am also when I do my sessions sometimes, and when I'm talking about them, people get offended. So then we have to explain to them that every person has a Shiva and a Shakti in them, and their shadow part is a shadow masculine or a shadow feminine, like I mean. So that, can you just quickly talk about that? No, for the Shiva Shakti part and the shadow part also.
Okay.
So that audience are completely updated because we are going to be using a lot of these concepts in our talks ahead. So उनको एक clarity आ जाएगी.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So when we talk about Shiva, what is Shiva? It's pure consciousness.
Yes.
It's absolute awareness. It's thita. It's absolute still consciousness. Yeah. When we're talking about Shakti, it is the flow. It's the creative energy.
Right.
It's the dynamic nature of this existence.
Yes.
Right? Everything is Shakti. And the awareness behind it is Shiva.
Okay.
So that's how it is. Shiva and Shakti that's the concept of Shiva and Shakti.
So you need both to understand
It is
anything.
together, yes.
Otherwise it is kind of distorted.
Absolutely.
You are disconnected from the whatever concept it is, from the source or from the truth or from whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So because awareness is our absolute, like I keep saying about absolute truth. What am I
Yes.
talking? When I'm talking about absolute truth, I'm talking about that consciousness which exists.
Right.
Which is not this is the separation we experience. You, me, separation. But the consciousness which is absolute.
Yes.
That's Shiva.
Yes.
Yeah. And when you look at the whole life, it is Shakti,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Within ourselves also this works.
Yes.
And when we talk about it in a more logical mind, it would be like Shiva is the container and Shakti is the flow. Right? And Shiva's structure, like when you talk about divine masculine, or like a person who's come into his divine masculine, it's about holding that space, structure. And that is again not in a man or a woman. It's again
It's in both. Yeah. Not gender based at all. Yes.
None of this is gender based.
True. Yeah.
It's just these components that we're using and understanding so that we see how we are functioning.
Yes.
Because the shadow parts of both exist, the feminine as well as masculine. Right? And this is about Shiva and Shakti is a constant. They're always together. There is no separation. It's never that Shiva is separate and Shakti is separate, and it cannot be. Then Shiva is nothing. It's just stillness.
Yes.
And Shakti is there.
Without the stillness, there is no flow.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Shakti is that expression in the manifest world.
Okay. So then what, again, we talk about the shadow masculine. What is it? It is basically what you explained before.
Yes.
Which is, if we have to look at Shiva, and how do we compare the shadow masculine? Are they the polarities that we are talking of, the opposites that we are talking of, or is completely another concept?
It'll be another concept, because when I'm talking about Shiva Shakti integration, that's within.
Yes.
But I'm talking about shadow masculine and shadow feminine.
Yes.
These are again the attributes that we have gotten conditioned with.
Okay.
So shadow masculine, like I said, is like that dominating. It's like kind of narcissistic, or you can say the kind who is thinks power is important, right? And as kind of disconnected. So emotional unavailability would come under shadow masculine.
Okay.
When you talk about shadow feminine, we are talking about this manipulation, victimhood. That is the part which is the shadowy feminine, which is talking about. Okay. But it's about integration with of these parts that we connect with the divine masculine.
Okay.
So the divine masculine then would be this whole thing about structure, about holding, about groundedness. For the feminine, it would be about interconnectedness, intuition, about growth.
Growth, yes.
So this is how it is connected. So that is how these are the two sides of the masculine feminine understanding.
Yeah.
And our internal Shiva is always there, present.
Okay.
It's always there, rooted in us, because it's pure absolute consciousness.
Okay.
What comes in the way is all this
constructs,
all these labels, all this things that we have created. Otherwise, we are only that. It's absolutely present.
So, based on this, my next question would be: what are the qualities of dark goddess and how they can be embodied in everyday life? Because now you said that there are so many labels and constructs and beliefs and conditionings and a lot of those things. What are the qualities and how can they help us actually? Yeah.
Right. So some of the qualities of the dark goddess is about you can see the concept of radical truth. Okay. So radical truth is what? It's about complete brutal honesty. So the dark goddess is like asking you to see, you cannot now not be honest. हम लोग झूठ बोल सकते हैं ना, हम लोग किसी और को झूठ बोल सकते हैं, अपने आप से झूठ बोल सकते हैं
नहीं.
That.
Okay.
So dark goddess is about radical honesty with yourself. Not buying into the things of like the victimhood mentality or any of that. Absolute honest truth.
Okay.
Owning and taking responsibility of your life.
Okay.
That's one of the things. Then the other thing is looking at destruction and creation. Right? So the dark goddess is constantly bringing in this aspect. Don't shy away from destruction. Don't feel totally this thing about I want to be in the positive creation.
Yes.
Allow destruction to happen. Allow that death before dying to happen. Because only then can you emerge as
something
this
new
person.
Yes.
You can't otherwise try to you can't do that otherwise. You have to destroy the old for the new to emerge. So she's asking to look at this as a cycle, as a beautiful cycle of creation, because we come from that.
Right.
Life and death and creation and destruction. So the other way of working with or understanding this goddess is the power of destruction and creation. right? There are opportunities that come in our life. Sometimes it's like, okay, that job is not necessarily working for you, or that relationship you're not fully being expressed, or it's time for it to let go. So the dark goddess energy helps you just take action in these areas even more strongly. Like she'll show it to you, what is really going on, what's coming in the way, and it's time to make that shift. And to honor that okay, this part of letting go is also fine.
Yes.
Now if I have to let go of this job is also fine. If I have to let go of this relationship also, it's time to do that. So it's about that, to allow things that are needed to go from your life, to allow it, so that there is a new creation that takes place in this understanding.
So when you're talking about allowing it to let go, for example, not necessarily they know that there is something ahead of them.
Yes.
It's the courage that even at that time when I know that there is nothing out there for me, but I'm so done with certain aspect of a relationship or a job or a loss of somebody, that you then can have that power to say to yourself that, okay, it's enough.
Yes.
That is what is called as the power of dark energies, or
Yes.
dark goddesses.
Yes.
Sorry.
So she's actually just telling you straight away that ho gaya hai ye, now it's time to move. And of course people don't understand. The thing is that especially in this chaos or in this thing of separation, we feel the worst, right? You're feeling so emotionally charged that the worst thing has happened. But in that moment she's asking you to surrender. She's asking you to surrender to the divine plan.
Okay.
Asking you to surrender wholly and totally. Be done with that and allow things to shift in your life.
So that means two aspects. When the dark goddess is working with us, she will show us a complete truth, even if we don't want to see.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because I know many of the times the people, the clients, they know about it, but they don't accept it. So I think that dark goddess energy will help them to see not only that clearly, but to accept it, have courage, and then surrender.
Absolutely.
So there are like 4 things happening together. So this is layers. It is working in layers.
Yes. But she'll first take you to the darkest point. She'll take you to the darkest point to say कि पहले तो देख लो.
देखो.
पूरा का पूरा देख लो कि क्या हो रहा है. Where is it coming from?
So in case of so many times when you have a relationship issues, तो बार अगर आप relationship में back and forth जा रहे हो, तो I think dark goddess gives us that power to accept कि अच्छा ठीक है, I have been insulted enough, बहुत बुरा हो गया मेरे साथ में, बार I am being subjected to whatever the trauma or abuse, or it could be emotional, physical, or just social abuse, whatever, because being rejected is also kind of an abuse, right? So the dark goddess will help us to see that कि हाँ ये बार मेरे साथ हो रहा है. Okay, so then the individual will then have the reality check कि okay, it's a pattern that is happening continuously.
Yes. Absolutely.
And I am always, because sometimes क्या होता है कि बार if you're fighting and then कोई मनाने आ जाता है तो सामने वाला, तो we go back to that, but again you fall into the same trap. So then that reality is first shown. तो वो reality check हमें dark goddess की energy से पता चल जाती है. फिर हमारे में कहीं ना कहीं किसी टाइम पे हिम्मत आ जाती है कि बस अब मैं
this is done, enough आ जाता है, वो enough, that is her word.
एंड उसके बाद होता है करेज के मैं इस चीज़ को छोड़ने को तैयार हूँ विद द सरेंडर के आई डोंट नो आगे है या नहीं है, बट आई एम मूविंग दैट. This is how the dark.
This is how it works. Yeah, this is like a complete integration of the energy and that understanding. यहाँ पे हम लोग, and the dark god is not about now कि आगे के person को गलत बोलो या सही बोलो. She's saying you look at yourself.
Right.
Where are you coming from? How have you allowed this to be okay?
Okay.
Why are you buying into this kind of treatment? Like you're saying, it's not being treated well. How are you allowing this? Yeah. What is working here? Because again, it's the unconscious. How have you accepted to be allowed to be treated this way for such a long time? Unless it was like this unconscious, a shadow feminine aspect working in there.
So maybe it could be that she has a pattern of rejection, she has a pattern of abandonment as a child, or she may be carrying in her past life karma also, or in the belief system or conditioning, that she doesn't want to be rejected, she doesn't want to be feel left out, so she is holding on to somebody who is not even correct, and she knows about it,
Yes, so
or he knows about
this
it.
is exactly what is shadow feminine when we're talking about functioning from that fear.
Okay.
You're functioning in the world from this fear. I want this so that I'm not alone. I have to do this so that I'm not broke. I have to do that because, there's a reason. It's coming from a place of fear. So this is the shadow feminine working in all aspects.
So I think after a point of time when your soul knows that you are compromising way too much to be for whatever reason, I think the soul then searches for the dark goddess energies or energies. It's basically energies. Yes. Now, for understanding, we are calling it as dark or light. But soul kind of wants to empower itself because it is not allowing us. My soul will not allow me to, fall down to such a level or to stoop down to such a level where I have to beg for somebody to come into my life or where I will have to beg for getting a job which is worthy of me. So at that point of time, the soul will then empower me with some energy which we now are terming as dark energies, so that it can bring us to light what we are actually going through and then help us to move from that.
Yes.
And it uses the dynamism of the dark side of the Shakti to bring all the transformations in us. Is that the correct way to say this? Or
yes, you can say like the dark goddess is there, present in the dark, in the dirtiest, in things which are said, deemed as like ganda. She's right there,
right,
saying why. These are all terms coined by human beings. Ye ganda, ye acha. So she's right there to question everything.
Right.
So she, she's like not just this, she's also an embodiment of love. So everyone says, the dark goddess, terrifying, right?
Yes.
But in fact, her persona is invitation. She's saying, she's inviting you to actually look into your life fully. She's saying, dekh lo, jo bhi hai, dekh lo. Agar you're coming from a place of falseness, dekh lo. So when we're talking about this destruction and creation, right?
Yes.
So it's really about trusting that in the midst of chaos, something beautiful can emerge. So the dark goddess is bringing that out in a person, in a soul's journey. Yes, in the midst of chaos, have the strength, have the courage, and allow this new to emerge.
Okay.
And to acknowledge the cycle of death and creation, and acknowledge this whole process.
Okay. And how is that guided? Do we have to do any effort for that, or it's kind of just...
So one is that life experiences take you there straight away.
Okay.
Right? Sometimes something happens, so you go there straight away. Just say, loss hua hai, you lost somebody. It'll take you there. But it's about now to really see, okay, this has happened. Right? It's about maybe celebrating that person, integrating that understanding. Yes, I've grieved. And many times the loss is felt even more deeply when you've had a conflict with the person,
right,
and you've not had the chance to probably communicate in this. So work on the closure there. How do we close this entire, experience?
Okay.
And then, allow it to then heal. And then move towards this, okay, and then surrender. Next, whatever is going to happen is going to come from a more authentic and beautiful place.
Okay.
So it's that sort of that process. Then the other thing about the dark goddess is also, like I've mentioned before, she's talking about embracing your shadow. That's a firm stance.
Right.
Embracing all your shadows, so that they are given space. Look at shadows as little children who've just not got room to express your anger, your pain, your rage, your your disgust. It's just not got room to be expressed. So complete embracing of the shadow allows those parts also to be, like I said, this positive and negative is the sides of the same coin. So your all these emotions and your other emotions are the sides of the same coin.
Okay.
So when you'll feel the fullness, the coin will become one in that process.
Right.
So embracing the shadows is also meaning like how do we embrace the shadows? We are again looking at these parts, like if your anger is there, right? So how do we deal with anger? There are ways, there are releases that you can do, but then you can also hold that part of yourself, saying it's okay to be angry, not a problem. But that doesn't mean now go and be angry. That's not what the goddess is saying.
Yeah.
She's saying it's okay. If you've been an angry person, it's okay. If you've been a jealous person, yes, okay. Can you see
Acceptance.
that fully?
Acceptance of
Yes.
your side, acceptance of your shadow part.
Yes, because first is completely, it's not even seen. People who are jealous don't even know they're jealous.
Yeah.
Right? Then when they can see it, it's almost like I don't want to. This is a struggle.
Yeah.
So then it's about to end the struggle, see it fully. Acknowledge that yes, I'm jealous. That gives you room to see where it's coming from, the roots. When you go to the roots, you will understand कि ये maybe मेरा childhood trauma है, maybe मेरे parents के साथ कुछ हुआ है, maybe कुछ incident की वजह से हुआ है. Moment you see that and understand that, half your battle is done. Half the healing work is done.
Okay.
And then you're able to release yourself in that place by certain practices or techniques, or even as simple as just seeing it fully.
Fully, yeah. Acceptance, like I said, is one of the key words for that.
Yeah.
So, Sneha, yes, I also would want to ask you now that, how this divine goddess helps someone reconnect with their authentic emotional self or the spiritual side of it. How does this help actually?
Right. So, the dark goddess, like from the very beginning I've been mentioning, she's saying ki look at the full spectrum of things. Right. So there is this passiveness that comes in us, right? And I've experienced this in so many of my, in my circles. When women come, they are passive aggressive. Passive aggressive in the sense कि जैसे दिखाएंगे नहीं कि they are like these angry people or they have anger, but अंदर भर के है. There's that emotion which is kind of buried inside. Anger has been like this, and when they are talking about somebody, there is so much of hatred there. And their own relationship, especially like I think one of my clients, it was a reflection of a relationship with her husband.
Okay.
So much of anger in that particular relationship, where the kind of flavor in the relationship was about, you can say, disconnection, taunting constantly, a separation in a way, but yet they are together, yet they are in that same place. So, but it's such a unconscious behavior that she's working from her shadow feminine, he's working from his shadow masculine, and both of them are not able to meet at a particular place. So when embracing the dark goddess energies and working with this entire emotional, your emotional, especially where it is coming from, the roots of it. Like for her, the passive aggression was because of how she was treated by a male in her life in her younger age. Her father, a father figure. How she was treated by this person. That she looked at this thing of, of being, you can say, scared. She felt scared about expressing herself. Okay. Yeah, so she wouldn't express herself and be okay with whatever is being shown to, okay with everything. Yeah, but as she grew up to be this woman with another partner, that started converting into this anger or rage, you can say, where she's okay with this partner too, but it's not working. She's inside not able to express, speak her truth, or even say कि ये मुझे नहीं चाहिए, मुझे कुछ और चाहिए. Not able to express entirely. And this is all coming from like our conditioned systems, Somebody बचपन में आपको किसी ने बोल दिया कि, like that whole idea, but you're not good enough. That just gets stuck. And that good enough happens to every person. Every person. You're not good enough. Example happens to almost every person.
True.
And it's a constant running, right? कि not good enough, तो मतलब ऐसा ही है. And nobody does anything to kind of break that cycle. But when you're working with the dark goddess energy, or when you're working with this concept of the dark feminine, you're accepting and acknowledging even that part of the self, so that now you know that ये आ कहाँ से रहा है, and then you can further integrate. So when she did this journey with me through this, it's not just one way of looking, right? It's again layers of things. You have to see what was the dynamic of the relationship. What is your relationship with your father? So we worked on that area. What was the relationship with your father? Where is all this pain coming from? And to go back to this because of probably a very small incident, which was maybe not so important, but that impacted her. Right. That defined who she was. That defined that she has to stay small, that she's not good enough. Right? Yeah. And that just and she could not express, she did not have the communication with her father as well. So when she actually had a masculine in her life, the same thing got repeated. Right?
The repeated of the patterns.
Same patterns, like almost you're repeating your same cycle of the father-daughter relationship with your partner, because the masculine is in your life is not healed. So we heal the masculine aspect, and dark goddess energy is about that, healing the masculine areas, healing not just yourself but your entire lineage. It could be the relationship with women, relationship with men. So when she healed those relationships with the men in her life, to be able to acknowledge them for who they are. One part is to be able to say, see that yes, there was pain. Then to be able to see that it was a little girl and her point of view. Okay. Then to be able to move to, healing and releasing. To be able to kind of allow that person to be for who they are, accepting them for who they are, accepting yourself for who they are. That is called the integration. You're finally integrating into yourself. And when she was able to do that with her, the work is behind, it's not with the current partner. When she was able to do the work with her father, that reflected in her relationship.
Okay.
Then a new bond started getting created, like a deeper connection happened with them. And they started off in a fresher way, in a new way. She was able to express. She was able to tap into her sensuality, bring out that energy, bring a new flavor to the relationship. Otherwise it is dead. And most relationships kind of reach that kind of stagnation. So when you're connecting with this energy or working with the dark goddess, you're able to really clearly see for yourself, because it's radical truth. You're being honest with yourself. Because you're being honest with yourself, you can see what's happening with the other as well. And when you're healing here, automatically everything else outside is also shifting around you. So her relationship healed after that. They were able to stay together. It was on the verge of let's split.
Call it off, kind of. Okay, so now that you have told me that, there are the archetypes of the energies, then you have different archetypes. I want to know, what are the dark goddesses? What do they embody? Who are they? What are their qualities? Because when we say dark goddesses, कहीं ना कहीं हमको ऐसा लग रहा है कि these are the जैसे dark side बोलते हैं, evil side बोलते हैं. So there is does that mean that or no? If not, then what it means, So can you give us the whole thing about, and if you can explain who are those dark goddesses that we are talking of, and also how do these dark goddesses help us, just very quickly.
Surely. So firstly, this understanding of dark goddess is not just like art culture, like India. India mein Maa Kaali represents the dark goddess energy.
Okay.
But this dark goddess concept has been a mythological concept, but from centuries and different parts of the world.
Okay.
Right? Like for example, we have Hecate from Greece, her mysterious energy.
Yes.
Then we have the rebellious spirit of Lilith,
yes.
Comes from the Jewish mythology.
Yes.
So these goddesses also represent the similar radical honesty, radical rebellion. And rebellion against what? The societal conditioning of that period, that time. So these goddesses, when we talk about the dark, they are not dark as in evil and all of that, but they are those rebellious spirits who are saying enough is enough. It's time for that new to emerge, time for that change to happen. And this was, it's so beautiful to see when I was even studying this entire thing and understanding goddesses, that this is not just here. This concept was way beyond, before time when there was no internet, there was no nothing, right? Human beings were connected with this whole moon cycle. They were deeply connected with nature. And they were in this understanding of, the cycle of light and dark, all of that, right? And that time, this understanding of the goddesses were there in different cultures, again representing their times of what was really going on. So they would be the rebellious ones to stand against oppression, to stand against whatever is going on. In fact, even our own, right? Like when we talk about independence, right? Maa Kaali was first used as to claim India. Can I go there?
Yeah, please.
So Maa Kaali first, was kind of portrayed by the Britishers to show India as this barbaric, bloodthirsty, like this, Maa Kaali ka understanding ye hota na,
drinking water,
that's it, it's only about that, right? And they kind of put that across to their government or their rule to say why India needs to be civilized. So that's how they kind of put this across, and to get that control over India, कि no, India really needs to serve as ये लोगों को काट रहे हैं, that kind of an understanding, which is absolute absurdity.
Fake.
None of it was true. And when then when the revolutionary movements were happening, and our leaders like Sri Aurobindo or Swami Vivekananda started reconnecting back to this goddess energy and using her as a powerful symbol of liberation than anything else. And then you see these movements, even revolutionaries like our Subhash Chandra
Dr.
Bose.
Subhash Chandra Bose, yes.
And he has an image of him being represented as Chinnamasta, his head cut off.
Cut off, yeah.
What is that representing? Complete destruction, ready to sacrifice in totality for the new to emerge.
Okay.
So these symbols and different places, like even in Greece and all, where Hecate, Lilith, they have been these symbols of rebellion in their times and their areas, and they're still valid today. Because why do we need Maa Kaali today? Why do we need her today? Because we are at that pivotal point. Technology is going fast, our disconnection is increasing. We are now becoming more and more isolated people than people of of communities.
Right.
So it's so important now for this goddess to emerge and help us see what's really going on, to really kind of break or destroy this idea of the separate self, me versus you, and to start looking at everything as interconnected. We are not separate people. The more we chase this separation, we're just destroying everything around us. The more we start coming together as these interconnected beings, there's some hope for the future to come together. Otherwise, it's just we're on this path of destruction. So it's pivotal right now for Maa Kaali or these dark goddess archetypes to be worked with, and consciously. Things happen unconsciously, right? Life तो होते रहती है, हम लोग life में ये tragedy होती है, वो होते रहती है, right? But this is about consciously working with the dark goddess archetype. And when you're consciously working with her, you are removing the obstacles that are coming in the way. You are becoming this person, because it starts when you talk about our spiritual journey also, right? It is what? It is about, can we be it's not a selfish idea. Spirituality is not just about the self. It's finally about integration and working with the world.
Giving it back.
Giving it back.
Yes.
So it's not just about me, but it's about integrating the whole thing. So it's pivotal at this point that we consciously work with this goddess archetype, stop these fragmentations from further happening, destroy the labels and these masks of conditioning, destroy all of it, so that we are able to make room for this massive different ways of humanity has existed over years. We need to have that ability to give love in areas where there is no love, where people are refusing to give love. So that's what Maa Kaali, she's also a representation of this vast love. It's like love in the void, right? There's absolutely no reason to love this, but she'll say that love that as well. Because that is what is needed right now. We need acceptance for all kinds of things. We need to have that ability to be able to see not what is shown here, but what is going on underneath, so that we're not directly labeling people and damaging further, but rather holding that space. Because that's how it starts, right? When you talk about it's from child, you grow up, because of certain labels you become this person, and now you're not really that label, you're not really that person. That shouldn't be defining you, because you are actually no labels. But since you have been told that Acha, you are this insecure child, you're this, that, so you kind of are putting this jacket on and not able to be who you're truly meant to be. Again, causing separation, not expressing yourself, not experiencing that love or connection, and then we're passing this on to the next generations without healing us, just passing it on. It's really high time we change this right now. So that's why this goddess archetype now everywhere, even Hecate, Lilith, a lot of people, because it's almost become like a global thing to work with this understanding. Don't shy away from the things which frighten you the most, or things that have said nahi ye kuch galat hai. Go right there. That's the thing. Rumi says, right? It's the darkness you have to deal with. That's where the light enters. There's no other way.
It's only the darkest moment you see the light. So that's where the goddess energies kind of takes us. So based on what you have explained to me, we also need to integrate, not only on a global level or on a social point of view, we also need this kind of energies to integrate our own fractured self.
First there. In fact, first there. Only when you integrate it within yourself are you capable of doing that to the world outside.
But how the illusion works is, we heal something outside and we come, on a level to heal ourselves. but actually it's the other way around, you know. But for a broader understanding, I think this works with people to understand that, you know, you don't need it for external interconnectedness or oneness, you know. You actually need to, so there are various versions of yourself, you know, some which are out there, which you want to show it to the people, you want to explore, and some which are hidden, most of which are hidden. So these dark goddess energies are there to help us integrate all the versions. Am I correct?
Absolutely, because that's essential.
Right.
Only when you have the ability to accept that part of you, which you said, acha, like, you know, that like, oh, this is a bad one. Okay, she's angry, she's jealous.
Jealous, or
If
she's
you're
hurt.
she's hurt.
Yeah.
Unless and until you're not willing to see and accept her and love her for who she is, exactly the way she is, you cannot do that for anybody else outside. When you talk about space holding, unless and until you've done that for yourself, you cannot hold space for another. It's like a pretense. You cannot do that. You have to be able to do that for yourself first, and everything else is a byproduct. So the interconnectedness, the experience of life, love, the vitality is a byproduct of this.
Okay, so now that we have heard so much about this, my next question that I would ask is, how does the shadow masculine actually interact with the dark goddess, you know? And what role does the dark goddess play in the world dominated by this shadow masculines, you know? How does she liberate is the right word, if I may have to say, you know? Can you throw some light on that?
Sure. So we did touch upon this before, but what we're talking about, the shadow masculine, is that part of ourself which is learned to cut away from the natural course of life, you know, from the natural things of ourself. It's kind of rooted into this different obsession, which is a power game necessarily. So when I'm talking about in the culture like we have, so in the corporate, it's about power. So if you're powerful, then, you know, it replaces a certain value, which is your other need. But the shadow masculine is now kind of become this aggressive, dominating, disconnected parts of yourself, which you can say are okay. So in the world we are living in, where we are exactly right now, in this whole what has been seen to us, right? We talk about success, and in that process of being successful, we are completely negating things. We're probably doing more harm than, you know. How are we becoming successful? By becoming maybe narcissistic. वो कैसे होता है, मतलब if you want to climb the ladder, then you need to be able to climb on other people. You need to be able to be cutthroat, be rude, be this, you know, powerful personality who's angry and who's aggressive in nature, and somehow that is celebrated in our world today. If you really see, we celebrate people who are on the top, who are probably really, really mean and rude and just don't care about anything else but this profit or but this gain or whatever they are doing. But we celebrate that because we call it successful. So we have defined success in different ways, and that's the shadow masculine that is playing out in our life. Yeah. And what is happening because of this part of, you know, like where dominance is high, where we're thinking, okay, if you're able to dominate, then I'm more in control, right? And that is not a way. That is, what does that do? It removes the connection with another. We do not have a connection left with another because we're more focused on this part, like, you know, domination, right? And yeah, it may be giving you results like, you know, that whatever success means to you, which is this world's definition again. But what it's doing is far more damaging to yourself, your relationships, and the world at large. Because people are, what are the people looking at? Agar ye successful ka benchmark hai, you know, if you're narcissistic, you're this, you're in this role, then everyone's striving to be that. And because of that, more separation, more pain is being caused. So shadow masculine is working all around us constantly. Like I mentioned about social media also, it's only about external validation. People want this external validation constantly, otherwise they do not feel worthy. And ये social media में वो likes, followers के इसमें, you know, घुस जाते हैं. फिर if you're talking about your when you have to talk to somebody, that what are you doing, it has to be like some kind of a benchmark of success, otherwise you're not worthy. So you're always functioning from this place of not worthy. You're
unworthiness.
Unworthiness. You're constantly in that unworthy space. And there is no escape from this. You have to break this cycle. Otherwise, you just, because at the end of this ladder, what is going to happen? You're going to experience disconnection, disharmony, health issues. So many things happen because of this particular domination of shadow masculine. And it is playing out even within us. Like when you talk about like I was mentioning about the feminist movement earlier. Now, feminist movement was to bring in this change of equality, and give these kind of some things which are pro-women, which can help us come into this kind of equality. But now what has happened is it's gone to the shadowy side. The feminists are also kind of becoming shadow masculine in that sense. And why? Because now they're kind of suppressing
the males. Yes.
The males. And this is not, this world does not need this. It's not me against you. The shadow masculine fight is about me against you. We're just changing the role, no? अभी ये नहीं है कि अभी हमारा patriarchal system है तो ये नहीं है कि अभी now we're going to make a matriarchal system. No. It's about, it is a patriarchal system, but can we bring interconnectedness? Can we remove these shadowy parts that are playing out, that we are against each other? We need to fight with each other constantly because we're doing that. We're at a constant fight. And when you see relationships today, it's such a disbalance because the shadow masculine is so high. Everyone's become hyper independent, individual, right? So where do you come together? You're only working at one aspect, which is about success. Success, it means to me, what it means to me. What about togetherness? Right? So the shadow masculine is actually affecting the whole of the world, be it your relationships, be it your own growth, be it who you want to be, everything. It's affecting every aspect of your life. And the dark goddess, when the dark goddess comes in, she's again saying, she's not saying matriarchal or patriarchal, she's saying end this rubbish. Because what the bigger damage that we're doing is to our children, the future generation. Because of these dynamics that we have created now, this hyper independence and separateness and mine and versus yours and my success versus yours, we are just creating trouble for these children. The children are growing up in this environment where they are confused about who they need to be. Yeah, they are incapable of making, better relationships. They can't connect at a deeper level because what are they seeing? They're seeing shadowy parts. They're also kind of buying into this ideas of what the society has created. And it's time when the dark goddess, when we work and when dark goddess comes into this picture of the shadow masculine, she's saying, let's break all of these notions, your labels, your ideas of wrong and right. Because what is wrong and right? Yeah, the moment we label a child or a person wrong, what are you doing? You're saying wrong because you're coming from this understanding, but that child is not looking at things that are right and wrong. But what we have done is put our conditioning over that child, and tomorrow that child can become anything. He might become those things, like, oh, I'm not good enough. He can become the next criminal. We are creating these things because we are putting these labels on children. So it's absolutely essential that the dark goddess, when she integrates with the shadow masculine, she's saying, see, we're looking at where leadership can become something different. It's all about leadership is in the, it's about connection. So it's like when the dark goddess comes in, we can imagine a better world. We can imagine a world where, power is synonymous with connection. Where it is about, when we talk about leadership, when we're talking about leadership, is rooted in empathy. We can change these dynamics that we have created right now in the world. Right now, leadership means something, it's brutal. And what we really need is space. We all need space to shift these narratives so that we can integrate the better qualities of understanding so that we can create this harmonious life together. Otherwise, we are all on just this individual spree. सब अपना करके अपना success लेके we're talking about climate change. Climate change is happening. The world is on destruction mode.
Absolutely.
And if everyone's going to still function out of separateness about me, which is the ego, which is the shadow masculine, it's just going to be a destroyed world in no time.
Totally distorted reality.
It is. We are distorting our reality because we are not taking action, and that's resulting in the future generation. What are we leaving for the future generation?
This is coming to talk about the distorted reality, like you were mentioning about, let's break the labels, we are talking about, about connecting with each other rather than disconnecting with each other. But now I am seeing a new trend where there are younger kids who are advocating that do not label me as a male or a female, and there are about 100 genders that have come, like so of course we do know about certain them, and they have the reasons to be there, like you have an LGBTQIA plus community or something like that, where the plus is now 100 pluses. And I don't know how do we kind of, because it's creating more separation.
Exactly.
You having, there are few, there are, lesbians, okay. Then there are, trans, they are okay. Their genders, okay. Maybe there are some things which people are not understanding. But you have 100, and now I have seen so many places they are asking me, what would you want to be referred to as? It's a male or a female or a
he, she,
he, she, your pronoun, your pronoun, and then there are hundreds of options for that.
Yes.
So I don't know how isn't that not a separation?
It is absolutely,
because fundamentally there are only male and female energies. I'm not saying about gender part, I'm talking about the energies part. But this energies is being further split into so many things,
That's the thing. Fundamentally, actually, there is no separation in
Yes.
anything. Man versus woman, no separation.
Yes.
We are the same. With the same awareness, same consciousness.
Yes.
Fundamentally, there is no separation. It's because of the separation, the problem is arising more and more. And like you said, this LGBTQ, this community, in our culture especially, it's amazing that in our culture, we have always had room for everything. When we go down to the depths of, the ancient times, when you go down to understanding Tantra, when you go down to understanding all these different kinds of relationship possibilities, India has had everything.
True.
And we actually do not need to buy into these more further, bifurcations. Just understand this, that there is acceptance and room for everything. But this younger generation is getting exposed to these things because, again, it's ego. Again, and where's that coming from? Again, because of a wound. So what if you like some, you are drawn towards the same sex? It's okay. It's acceptable.
It's perfectly fine.
But because it was not, now it's festering as a wound, and it's like, okay, let me get my space in the world. But this is absolute rubbish. It's only creating separation, only creating problems, and this is again that ego side of functioning. So I would again call it that it's stemming from that ego place of wanting to be, seen in a certain way.
So like what you were saying, I would like to see that a lot of fake narratives is out right now, coming out, as I'm seeing that, the dark goddess energies essentially talks about, there are no labels, and be who I am, accept who I am, and then we have different pronouns, 100 plus pronouns coming us, our kids are getting confused, and there are, especially in West, thankful, mercifully not in India, but in West, the curriculums are being changed where it is being taught to them, that this is how you are, you can be different, or you are. So isn't the shadow masculine who is feeling a threat of dark feminine energies or dark goddess energies mimicking it and then creating, in the name of, labels or no labels, they're doing something like this and still creating distortion, still creating disconnection? Because that's what is happening, because if you are trying to be separate, if he is different, she is different, XYZs are different, hundreds of it. So how does that work? What can you say?
So again, this is stemming from that same place of childhood wounds, that same unhealed places where the need for validation is so high because you've not been validated for who you are, right? So there is that thing about, I want to now say that this is who I am. And it's happening more in the West because they do not have the rooting of where we can get culturally come from, right? In our culture, we have accepted so many things. It's amazing.
Yes.
We've been into that place of, like literally that secularism, literally saying Atiti Devo Bhava.
Yes.
So we have given room and accepted so much, not just in the realms of inviting people, but even in these concepts. So that's why we don't see it in India. We don't see it so much. Like, yes, of course, Western influence is coming in. But at the root, if every Indian gets it, that here we have accepted everything already. And you're not separate, you don't have to get a separate validation from, the world right now. So all of these things that are arising, and the reason for these number of, different definitions everybody wants is because of the damage this shadow, this whole patriarchal system has already done to our world. It's separated so much that everybody is just further on the spree of separation. Like I was mentioning, even when you're talking about success, it's only about me. My success, my success, my success. Yeah, and we don't even have the ability to celebrate another anymore. It's just about me. So this bifurcation has definitely been a major cause happening because of the shadow masculine. And again, that if people are misunderstanding that and think, it's a shadow or the dark goddess, is saying, don't have any, you are basically, the dark goddess is saying you have no labels, right? You are completely this unadulterated person that you are, right? So she's actually freeing you from everything. She's not saying your no labels means now you can use it to say that, Acha, since I am no label, now I'll add new labels to myself. Because
that is a further separation.
That's further separation. She is saying no labels at all. There is no separation. If you're saying man versus woman, also there is no separation. And that's where she is going to. She's saying, ये हो गया, ये बस करो bifurcations आप. आपने बहुत damage कर दिया है कि ये मैं ऐसा हूँ, मैं ऐसी हूँ. बस हो गया यार. We are all human beings with the same human mind, with the same human design, same spectrum of emotions. There's nothing different. Yet we say, I'm different from you.
So this is about the non-duality,
This is non-duality.
That we all are one at the end of the day.
And Maa Kaali and the dark goddess everywhere represent this itself. Non-dual nature of reality. There is no separation. And because we are creating separation, still we are having these wars, still we are having the pain in relationships, still we are passing on trauma. Because we are saying, मुझे ऐसा feel हुआ, इसलिए मैंने ऐसा किया. He did that, I did this. You're just doing that back and forth.
Most of the time, as you say, that there is the concept of, everybody is at war. It happens in relationship also, because everybody is trying to outdo what they did, So instead of sometimes, if there are fights, like you say, which goes back and forth, the couples are not listening to each other. They are not hearing each other. They just, okay, you said something. Instantly the mode is, how can I go back? How can I give a reply to that, about the comebacks.
Yes.
So it is so ingrained in our DNA. The concept of, one against another is so ingrained. That it is working on a very core level now.
Absolutely. It's only reactions.
Yes.
We are only reacting to each other.
Judgments and reactions.
Yes. Everything we take it so personally. Yes. Well, rather when you're working with the dark goddess, when you're working with such depth inside your soul, like radical truth.
Yes.
Radical acceptance of yourself and the other, then you are making room. And this is that, that action and reaction has caused a lot of damage. And that's all we are doing. What goddess or this dark goddess gives us the power or the ability is to see what is underlying. And what this does is eventually it helps us to be learn and probably understand the person in front of better. Instead of coming from the place of reaction, we can step back and understand they're coming from a place where it's probably a place of pain, or something of there has been hurt, and you can change your way of communication. That's possible. Yes. The dark goddess is saying, destroy these, this thing. Go, just stop that. Go. And when you look inside yourself with that radical honesty, yes, I'm full of shit. I'm not saying I'm this amazing person.
Yeah, happy, person.
I'm the best. Yes. I'm so kind. I'm so loving. No, I'm full of absolute rubbish. I have been mean. I've been angry. I've been jealous. Everything. Right? Then you give, when you're able to see that for yourself, do that work and integrate it for yourself, can you hold that space for another? And that's why in my work also, I kind of really insist or tell women to, rise their Shakti, women and men, connect to your Shakti, connect to your inner intuition, your inner wisdom, because then you're going to function from this place which is always for the highest good of everything, not in this lieu of separation. When your Shakti is risen, you're not functioning as this individual. It's a collective growth. It's a collective shift, because that Shakti is not just, it's changed things in you, and it's shifting things around you. You're
resonating around.
Resonating, and you're able to hold that space of transformation for the other. And people right now in our world only need space holding.
Yeah.
To be, and Goddess Kali also says this thing: you are enough just the way you are. Now that does not mean you ignore and bypass things, but it's the essential understanding that your bad parts, which you have deemed, or your good parts, which you're so proud of, they mean nothing. You're enough just the way you are. Don't take pride in something, and don't go too low
Or
because of the
shame,
other.
or shame in
or
other
shame
thing.
in the other.
Because my next question was related to shame, because a lot of times I've seen that the women, they go through a lot of shame about their sensuality or about their own sexual energy, so, or maybe they are in shame because of the trauma, so how does this dark goddess energy kind of help us release that part, because at the end of the day, these are not the aspects that we want to hold on to, because they're stopping us somewhere or the other. These elements, what they are called as the pains or the dark side of us, they're stopping us from being in a complete whole self. So how does that help us, the dark goddess energy? How do you help, or in
trauma and shame,
in trauma and shame, regarding the sexual and the sensual aspect of feminines, especially feminines as a women, like
So our sexual energy and our sensual energy is the creative life force energy. It is. Yeah. We have disconnected from it because it's been again put in a box, which is like, if you're married, then you're allowed to explore your sexuality, right? Again, which is absolutely false. But it is about that. Like, it's only in some certain frameworks, or it's deemed like talking about all these things about your sensuality, about your organs, about your sexuality, anything, because log kya kahenge. So it's in that kind of a framework. So you're always shamed about this thing, and this has caused a lot of damage, because when you talk about sexual energy, we're talking about root chakra. We're talking about our power. We're talking about abundance. We're talking about this
support.
This presence of ours. We're talking about these various elements of ours, our relationships. And that area is completely blocked because how we have shamed this particular aspect of our natural bodies and ourselves, because the world has decided to do so. Again, when you see, there are clusters in this world. Some now there's rigid understanding because of certain upbringing, and there is this open understanding because of certain upbringing. Now, when a person is stuck in their shame and guilt, they cannot communicate. They cannot be authentic in their lives. They're not able to share what is their truth.
They are blocked.
They're blocked. They can't say, this is what I want, this is what I like. It's really, really damaged to that aspect. And that's why Goddess Kali is working in every level. She's not just saying sexuality is one of the deepest understanding of Shakti. In Tantra we have this. It's such a beautiful part. Tantra actually integrates this entire understanding of not separating your body and your mind, not separating these two. In our culture, in our spiritual understanding also, we have these two paths. We have ascetic, or then there's the other thing which people are afraid of, is there's this hedonism, and that's not really a path, but there is either you're ascetic or then there's this hedonism, but it's not the case. When you're talking about an integrated life, we're talking about accepting every part of you, the whole design of your body, and this interaction with the world. It's not separating yourself from, what is. It's not that, okay, now I'll be this and then I'm becoming pure or something like that. And that is the very reason why sexuality has been suppressed, because there is this other path where if you are this good person, you don't do this, something about that is good.
Demure.
So you're good. You're a guru then.
Good,
Like a definition of a guru is what? A guru is probably wearing a one colored outfit. He will not drink, he will not smoke, he'll not have a partner, he's a virgin, he's this. What are you doing? How have you defined things? Right? And this aspect of sexuality being, kind of curbed, especially for women and men actually. But in women, has stopped them from experiencing the wholeness of their life. They are in pain. They are becoming manipulative. They're becoming codependent.
Yeah.
Because they cannot express their authentic reality. And Dark Goddess definitely works on your sexual chakra, your root chakra.
Okay.
Because she's saying it's time. Enough. Like she says enough in that angle also. She's saying it's time to reclaim your power there, because when a woman reclaims her power there, she becomes a source of communication, an authentic being. And when you look at woman as a channel, the whole concept of a mother, a womb space, she needs to be in her, complete wholeness.
True.
And everything supports that, needs to support that, because otherwise we're just passing on this bullshit down the generation where the next child will not be able to express themselves. So when we integrate sexuality again within us, again not reading, the idea of this, we need to question this. किसने बोला मुझे ये गलत है? किसने बोला मुझे वो गलत है? किसने बोला कि this is right or this is wrong? Question. That is your source. That is the key.
Yeah.
You question reality. Is this real or not? किसने बोला ये normal नहीं है? Find out. Find out. Contemplate. Work with your mind. Ask the goddess. Connect with that understanding and go beyond that. To that, again, non-dual awareness, which says it's all whole.
Yeah.
It's not separate. So yeah, it's very essential for a woman to come to her complete sexual integration, so that, and understand what her body, her desires, everything are about, because she is going to be the source of spreading this further.
Yes.
Even the men are what then? If a woman has created a child and he's a boy, what is she going to pass on to him? Something nice, or the same thing of she's going to be so suppressed and timid and in her way.
Yeah.
He's going to attract the same suppressed and timid person. He's going to take on the same shadow masculine qualities and pass it on. She rises in her power, a different integration and connectedness can happen in the future generations. Even for herself, for that matter, she can reconnect with her partner in a different way. The children further will know how to handle each other instead of doing any domination, suppression, main bada, main chota, jo bhi game. They stop playing these games.
So like even you were mentioning about the sensuality and the sexuality part, and also about the Tantra, I just had a counter question to that. In a land which is full of Kama Sutra, where there is an epitome of women energy, okay, how has it gone from here to suddenly here, where women are just an object? How has this kind of why didn't the dark goddesses at that point of time rise in the power to stop that, because in our day-to-day life today, if we talk about women being sexual or women bringing out to their power, there were times when in Kama Sutra they were talking about women being on top, or women leading the men, or women had the power to kind of attract men. So they were using their sensuality and sexuality, and there was no morality, in sense that they were not being how do I say, judged about it. Objectified is one part, judged about it. Today, if anybody is talking about it, there is a lot of people who are judging those places, and that's why a lot of women who really may want to come out, but they're afraid of being judged. So how does this dark goddess energies kind of work and help us there, because it's the same energy, it's in our culture, it's in our tradition, where both of men and women have the right to be equally happy, and equally express themselves. Could be in a subtle way in general public, and in a very ravishing way in their bedrooms, but still women doing that today is still being judged, because I've been speaking to a lot of women, and they cannot even express to their own husbands of how they feel or what they want. So how does this energy then help them?
Yeah, definitely. So firstly, where is this coming from, right? This whole thing of this this, like you said, yes, in our country, Tantra has been a path, right? There is that whole aspect which has existed.
Right.
Then how have we reached here, right?
Yeah.
We have reached here because of a lot of things, and it's mainly been colonization. Which have, from our free-spirited bodies being open, hardly jeweled things. When colonization happened, the clothes came in. one by one. And then the shame and guilt came.
Yes.
Then it became this thing about to protect the women from the colonizers and all these, invasions. Then it became about घूंघट. घूंघट भी डाल दो ताकि कोई किसी को ले ना ले. It all fear based. Again shadow masculine. Again that power game. Somebody wanted to conquer this, so this happened. So protecting the women, so this happened. Right? So it all got warped. All of this. That's why the dark goddess. Yeah. That's why she said, come आ जाओ इधर, destroy करो ये सब कुछ को, खत्म करो इसको, destroy करो, because this is bullshit. This is absolute bullshit. बकवास है ये. किसने बोला कि हमारे मतलब we separate separate from our body, mind, and kisne bola ki we are not, why are we not able to express ourselves? We have all the rights to express ourselves, right? So it's happened because of this cultural conditioning and several things, and then
invasions and all of things,
and all of that.
Yes.
And then this whole thing became that the men became the protectors and all of this, and women became like kept in words, all of that. That started happening. So the power dynamics changed. But this was not the true India. This was not the true tribe. Earlier times, it was in reverence. We have women who were acharyas. We have women who wrote the Ved, part of the Vedas, who were these poets and so many different aspects. So it was not true. It happened because of this conditioning, this whatever, colonization, everything has happened. So that's why if we connect with this goddess archetype and really take it on ourselves, ki ho gaya, isn't there another way of being? How can I be okay with this mediocrity? I mean, how can I be okay with pleasure not being a part of my life?
Yes.
Every woman takes this on, every man for themselves as well. I'll never say men and women separate, but we're talking about women like you asked. So yes, if women take it on, they will tap into the true nature of who they are. Okay. You can see through this bullshit what is happening, especially related to लड़कियों को ऐसा रहना चाहिए, वैसा रहना चाहिए, all of it. And you can come into an integrated aspect, because even the shadow feminine, how does it work? If it's not dealt with, shadow feminine can take sensuality to manipulate.
Okay.
Yeah, not in a way which is empowering, but in a way which is probably disempowering, against selfish needs.
Yeah.
So when the dark
goddess, for example, honey traps. Most of the people will use women to honey trap to get information, just as an example.
Yes, exactly.
That's a classic example of shadow feminine.
Yes.
Men using women and their femininity for their advantage.
Absolutely.
Could be that.
Yes, that's also a part of it. Again, women also manipulating men can also be a part of it. Women also do that.
Okay.
Again, from the shadow aspect. Okay. Not consciously, but from the shadow aspect, women also manipulate men to to lure them in so that they can get something out of it, but it's not coming from a place of love or connection or a deep understanding.
Vested interest.
Yeah, it's more like, okay, I get something here. And this is really happening in today's culture even more, especially a younger generation talk about relationships. It's a big problem because it's only happening in this area of like some kind of trade-off. So when you work with the dark goddess, you are saying no to, you're not being here anti-men or anti-women or any of that. You're saying just no to this whole cycle which has been created, which is about saying ki ye galat hai ya wo galat hai, destroying it, and to be able to create something new in that place. New, totally new, not based on the past, not based on somebody else's thought or logic. When you are integrated here, you can take things forward in a very different way, in a more authentic way.
So basically what I'm understanding is the energy, which we call it as any energies or energy. Shakti is Shakti. But now what we are talking today is about the dark energies, the dark goddesses. They are not here to say anything to a man or a woman. Basically it is asking to destroy the constructs, the concepts.
Exactly.
It is not related to a particular gender,
not at all,
or any gender. It is just looking at the concepts that are kind of stopping the growth.
Yes.
Then it could be a man or it could be feminine.
Absolutely.
And these concepts are then making us work in a anti manner or a negative manner, which is then separating us from each other. That is essentially how dark goddess energy is empowering us to understand that now
What is going on, yeah.
Yes, this is what is all going on, and now this is what is happening. Now you learn lessons, or you understand or be aware of it, and then you work from that point of wisdom.
Yes.
So does this wisdom automatically come when we start working with the goddess energy, or it's always there and she just awakens it?
Everything is inside, within us always. It's just dormant, just lying there. We just don't know कि ऐसा कुछ है भी. We are capable of so much more, right? So when that understanding comes, that what is this dark goddess, right? When you sit with that understanding and really, it's as simple as, even if from the bottom of your gut, you call out saying, "Bas ho gaya, I need to shift from this."
Yes.
That's the fire. That's the transformational fire, which the goddess represents.
Okay.
So
the burning desire.
The burning desire.
Yeah.
The thing of like, bus, that's it. I got to go above and beyond this. So that is what she brings forth in a person, and that fire allows them to take the next steps of healing, letting go, shifting, shedding, seeing it fully, and then move, rise as a phoenix maybe, or rise as a beautiful, emerge as a new person. Nothing of the past.
I had experienced something like this. Now that you're mentioning about this, when I was at the worst of my dark night of the soul. So dark night of the soul, which is the worst phase of your spiritual journey, But when I was at the lowest, there was a time when I, in a way, kind of said, it's enough. There has to be a time where you have to stop pretending to be a victim. It is happening to you. You accept it. And after that, there was the burning desire. Like, that's when I said it's a burning desire. This is not a good space, but this space has taught me a lot.
Absolutely.
But this is not a good space to be, and from that I started rising. Having no clarity, but I knew that this is not the place where I want to be, and I started kind of rising, moving up. And of course, I was at that point of time when you are at the lowest in the dark night. So dark night of the soul is the lowest phase. Yes. Usme bhi you are at your lowest. So there is nothing else but to surrender.
Absolutely.
And when you surrender, because that's the only thing it will teach you. Either you will die, or you will be in that surrender mode.
Yes.
So at that point of time, my soul cracked open. And then the light started coming in. Is this the dark goddess energy that you're talking of?
Yes, absolutely. Because this is the fire which is like, okay, of that being done. Otherwise, you're just playing it out. You're trying this. अच्छा ठीक है ना, चल रहा है चीजें. हो रहा है ना, job हो रहा है. Relationship हो रही है, ठीक है. Some people take it to their grave also, just doing this.
Yes.
And it's really sad because the future, you're just messing with the whole thing.
Yeah. You're messing your whole life. Forget the lineage that is coming ahead, but
your life
is, and you only have one life here.
Yeah. Exactly. So yes, that is the way you even connect with this goddess, with your absolute, like, I'm ready to dive inside. I am not going to run away. I'm going to see it fully. I'm going to walk this fire walk. I'm going to do it. I'm going to sit with my pain. I'm going to, it's like, no, I'm not going to, now run from somewhere, run to another place, to another relationship. No, bus. Can I make that shift here? Can all this that I'm experiencing end? And that needs to be a burning desire. It needs to be. And life teaches us those experiences. Life gives us those experiences.
Yes.
It does.
Yeah.
And that's when we start on this. Why do you think spiritual journeys even start? It starts at these painful points.
Yes.
It's an eye-opening. Finally, your eyes are open. Finally, you've broken out of the illusion. Otherwise, you're caught up with the illusion.
Yes. The matrix, what we call it. Maya.
Yes.
Yeah.
So finally, because of these incidents, you've woken up.
Yes.
Yeah. And now, because of the amount of distractions we have on our social media and all of that, you wake up and you're lost again.
Exactly. Lack of focus. That is the biggest thing that is, happening right now.
Yes.
Because for whatever reasons, the dark energies, not the dark goddess, but the dark energies, the shadows, those are the one who are, we have 10-second reels now, and beyond that we don't
Goldfish
even want to
memory.
see.
Yeah.
Literally
Utna bas
goldfish.
hai.
Yeah. And if you don't have a proper hook, you do not even want to see that. So that is the level that we are brought down upon, so that now we don't go beyond. Because if you focus on something, you are going to get attached to that subject, and you are then going to empower because of that, which there are, elements which is not wanting that to happen, and so that is why a lot of distractions are happening.
So this is the game of the world. This is what I say, patriarchal systems. What are these things, these companies, these corporations, what are they benefiting out of? They're benefiting out of your isolation and your separation. They're creating more and more things so that you can be more isolated and more separated. Then what do you do when you're isolated and separated? You're sad. Then you buy things. You buy things and you're just in that, same country. And it's just feeding off people. It's just feeding off people. And people are not able to see that they're caught up in this game. Until life incident happens, life takes you there, and then you probably are shaken up. But it's only those who are like, no, who have seen the pattern repeat again and again, and who are done, who bus aa jata hai na, are the ones who take things forward. Otherwise, it's just momentary, temporary relief. उसमें थोड़ा करके life भी गुजार देते हैं लोग.
Many people just take it literally, like you said, take it to the grave. Okay, then my next question would be, that now you have given us a lot of templates about what this dark goddess is about, not the dark energy, sorry, the dark goddess is about, What are some of the things you as a master on this subject can, offer to our viewers, maybe some tips or some rituals or some practices, that can help, where they can at least come and experience that. Maybe it will be too difficult for them to go through this process. They would definitely need, hand holding about that. But at least even have that glimpse of this dark goddess powerful energies, Could you share some tips on that?
Definitely. So when you're working with the dark goddess, it is going to be about radical honesty, because she will take you there. Even if it's a gradual process, she's going to take you from A to B to the last step, probably. But how do we begin? Begin with the basic, to be able to sit with yourself. Instead of now, okay, I can't sit here, I have to go run this. Sit with yourself. To be able to journal. Journaling is like a concept where we can do. In fact, in some of my workshops, we do this. We do these practices where it's like a shadow journaling. What is shadow journaling? All those things which you can't say to the world, right? If बोलोगे तो क्या बोलेंगे, ये ऐसी है, ये ऐसा है, ये ऐसे सोचते हैं. All those things to be written in a book. Write it as a journal. And you need to have the shadow journal, because what that allows is a place where it is expressed. That's all the shadow is asking for. Can it be expressed? And you start there, because that opens up a doorway. You then start following the map. So when that opens up and you'll see, acha, okay, this is there. Then you'll want to do something about it, because you will repeatedly experience. Like, for example, if jealousy has been a part of your nature, right? And you've written it down, okay, this. But somewhere you'll be like, no, now what do I do with this jealousy? I really want this to get out of my system. Then you go into deeper practices. Practices of, like, there's another practice that we do in one of the sessions, is like this mirror connection, again with the goddess understanding. Like, you create a space where you're lighting a candle and you're just by yourself. You play maybe some subtle music, but you're gazing into your own eyes with that depth. You're asking questions. First, you set an intention, very important. What is it that you want to create? Then you connect with those aspects of the goddess that are calling out to you. Maybe it's something you need strength for, to destroy some part of being. So you ask her, what is it that I need to see? And just look into your own eyes. Magic starts to happen, because the way you start connecting with yourself and allowing, maybe tears might come out, maybe your emotions, and you allow these to come out.
Right.
Allow these emotions to come out. And then you'll start seeing how it starts integrating that part of yourself. You're finding love within yourself. You're saying, it's okay, that jealousy, it's not your fault. It's, you're closing that rather than letting it be, and you're just in your head, I'm a jealous person, yuck. I hate it. You're fighting. It's an internal conflict. But now you're given space for that shadow to come in front of you, and you're saying, it's okay. I understand. And let's go to the root of it. Was that yours? Was that your... That's why shadow journaling.
Yes.
Was that your belief? When did you first feel jealous? Where did it come from? Yeah. Did someone tell you that this is what it is? Go back to the first incident of your jealousy. And when you go back to the first incident, you have an opportunity to heal that. To be able to say, ki, yeah, I was very little. I didn't know this. I was very young. I didn't know this. And, I'm so sorry that I felt this way. And you can forgive that part of yourself, literally.
Okay.
That, saying that, I'm like, you know what, you didn't know. You can talk to yourself. When you're eye gazing, you're literally communicating within.
Yes.
And saying, giving space for those parts of yourself, saying, it's okay, you didn't know that. Now I'm here, we can work with this. You're slowly creating room. Right? So these are the initial steps that you can do.
Okay.
And further, there is lots of work that you can do with the dark goddess energy, because like I said, it's embodiment. So the practices of the body, of shaking, releasing. I use some of these practices, which are like, which make your body and mind be like, what did I just do? Because that's what we need, a radical break from the normal.
Yeah.
That's what dark goddess is about. She'll say weird. She'll say accept the profane. She'll say love the profane.
Profane,
say,
yes.
Yeah, she'll say, like she just want that. She'll say, no, all that which you call shit, horrible, wohi pehlu, that is your doorway. That is her message.
So you walk through the darkest side of yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. You see the darkest part.
Yes.
However bad or...
बहुत, जितना भी गंदा हो, जितना भी गंदा हो. That's the only way you can heal. Otherwise, you're going to manifest it in the outside world in weird ways, for sure.
Most of us are actually walking from our wounded self.
Absolutely.
Only. Yeah.
Wounded hearts and open. Doing things, everything.
Yeah. And that's the energy which we are sending out into the world, and that is only coming back. So it's a constant repetitive cycle.
Yes.
Unless you deep dwell.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. That is a very, very intense work also, but
it is. It's not an easy path.
Yeah.
Working with, let me tell that also
yes,
to the viewers.
Because that's what...
So working with the dark goddess archetypes is not a very easy path. Yeah. Because it is about choosing yourself, your authentic self, your true self over everything else that you've learned. And it's challenging because you're so conditioned to be okay with this, with that, right? But to walk on your own path, it takes courage, a lot of courage.
And so that is why there is a hand holding.
That's why, yes. That's why when I say when this is a radical truth also, no?
Yes.
How do you know what is that? You need a teacher, you need somebody to hold that space for you till it's being reflected.
Also pull you from that space. And pull you from that.
Yes. And any guru or any teacher will never, kind of plaster you. They should be mirroring the worst that is happening to you. That you are, show them the mirror. They're like, this is what is happening directly.
The ugly side of it.
The ugly side of it.
Yes.
If you're being nice and kind, then the guru is also not, or the teacher is also not doing their job. It has to be somebody who is able to reflect the radical truth, that look at your bullshit. Look at what you are holding on to. Are you ready to give that up? Are ready to go above and beyond that? So to tap into that understanding of a person, and that's very important. Handholding is needed for a certain time. Of course, you can do the work yourself, but to understand what is, because the world things get very confusing generally, because you don't know how to navigate life, right?
Apart from that also, this work is so intense and it requires an immense iota of courage to walk the path.
Absolutely.
That there are times that you might be really afraid to see what your truth is, because it comes as a shock, and that is something which is unfamiliar. There are times when people may not pursue this journey. So at that point of time, I think one of the biggest thing what I feel is, apart from the other things, to make you continue and pursue your journey is where the maximum hand holding is required.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because otherwise you get lost. There's so much, and it's a very shaking experience also. It's not for anybody and everybody. But I think the universe puts you on that path when you say, "Bas, it's enough," and somewhere you have the courage that I need to go out of it.
Yes.
And that is why we have the concept of heroes. Any person who has gone down and walked that dirty path, and and has
Emerged.
risen like a phoenix. That is why they are called as hero, because they have the courage to go through what it does. Like I'm Jain, so in Jainism it's all about Mahavir. Now if you look at the name, it is Veer, but it is Mahavir. Now when I was young, we have to practice Jainism quite a lot. So it is always about don't fight, don't do this, don't do that, let it go, forgive, forget. And there was a time in my life when I was thinking, like, you are a god, you are teaching us something, and why are you called Veer then? I mean, at that point of time when I was young, sorry, but I used to call this is, like being scared. You're just running away from all the issues. But only when I went into my transformational spiritual journey, that I realized that no, it takes immense courage to look at the harsher side of you, the abandoned part of you, the fractals of you, then to see the ugliest versions of you, the beliefs, the traumas, the pains, the conditionings, and then to navigate around all of them and to surface, and then to bloom like a flower, like a lotus. That's when I realized, oh, that's why he's called Viro ke Veer Mahavir. So that whole ideology didn't realize to me then, but now it comes to me that there is so much of work that we have to do. We just humans, we come and we are looking for, I am like, I want to have nirvana. And people do a lot of, readings of books, sacred books, then they do meditation, chanting, and all of that, Somewhere I think it's a good thing. It's a very good thing. It's very good for the logic brain. But somewhere you are bypassing also in a way.
Yes.
And bypassing will never help you if you have the experience of walking through this path. Like you said, the fire of the goddess, like you said it. Now it makes so much of sense. Why is the name? Because you're walking on that fire to become the goddess, where I'm accepting and accessing each and every part of me and working on it, releasing it, and becoming a higher version to be that goddess. So the dark goddess to the goddess journey. Yeah, I think that is where you become the Mahavir or become the hero, like
Absolutely.
So that is the work. What you do is very, very impactful and beautiful. I'm sure so many souls would have made a lot of transformational journeys through that. So how are they now accessing their life? Where are they accessing? How are they accessing it? How are they accessing their life today now with the new wisdom that they have?
Right. So once you tap into this understanding key, the reality, when you touch upon reality, you can't go back. It's almost like when the fire of the goddess has touched you, your authentic self is now already kick-started. So there's something always going to bite your back if you're not walking the path authentically. So it just becomes a part of the process. Now, our journeys have been about opening the consciousness, opening up human being's mind to such an extent, through so many lenses, that you cannot go back to that old way of being. You have to, kind of leave that.
That version is dead.
That version is dead. Yeah. And that takes you to different places, right? So we've had participants who've done our core workshop is called 9 Steps to Nothing. Like I said, it's into the complete non-duality, right? And people who have done this journey, it's really like you experience fire of the goddess.
Yes.
Yeah. So people, like women who do 9 is the goddess, sometimes are not able to do it because they find it like, wow, my God, kitna dekhna hai apne andar, But this journey is like 10 times deeper.
Oh.
It takes you through the lens of from life, death to world philosophy to so many things, and opens your minds. Even watching movies in this particular course, very interesting, highly like expanded, mind expansion kind of a course. But what happens is you're working on yourself, you're learning these concepts, but you are utilizing them, right? So now the people who have done this course or who've done work with us, they are initiated, you can say. They are now walking their path, their true life choices.
Okay.
Because that's also part of the process. We're not telling them what to do. That's never a part of the thing कि you do this and no techniques, no template कि अच्छा भी ये करना है आपको follow और ये chant करना, nothing. We are just taking you to your truth, your inner fire. What is it that now you want to create? And every human's final, this thing is about contribution to the world. It's about bodhisattva, right? Bodhisattva vow.
Yes.
So it's like, it doesn't just end here. Now I've become a bodhisattva. The bodhisattva vow is about now what do I give?
Give back.
So they are right now, like when I see some beautiful transformations have happened, they are doing exactly what they wanted to do, like studying abroad or, finally left that job and finally like, okay, can I have my peace of mind and do nothing? That also takes a lot of courage.
Yes.
The people who are like relationships, people who wanted to have children and were so nervous about it or were not able to conceive, have conceived, have gone beyond that. So lots of beautiful things they've taken forward, and the thing is now they are the ones taking it forward. We have nothing to do with it because they initiated into this understanding ki, how does your mind work, how does your heart work, how is the world working, and what can we do to and how should we think when this arises? How should we think? Should I come from that place of direct like action reaction, or take that step back? I can understand what that person is going through. You're coming from a naturally compassionate place. So the byproducts of this has been that tremendous compassion, that passion to take something forward, passion to do something in this life, understanding that we have only this much time. इतना ही टाइम है हम लोग वी वॉकिंग अराउंड कि बहुत टाइम है आराम से सब करेंगे बट वी हैव ओनली दिस मच टाइम यू गॉट टू डू इट नाउ एंड माँ काली इज दैट फियर्स एनर्जी कि अभी she brings abhi. If you are the one who wants to find that success and go above, bring her in now.
Okay.
Say, come. So it's not like let life happen, let life lessons teach me.
Yeah.
It's about saying, can I consciously work with those things so that life does not have to teach me these lessons, and I myself heal and make things work for me with this deeper reflection so that I create a new path now. I don't attract the same things. I attract new things, better things, larger visions. That's how it works.
So if I were to work with Maa Kaali, for example, what is the fastest way I can work with her?
Fastest way? Dive straight in. Yeah, dive straight in. She is a goddess who can be invoked, called upon at an individual's choice. She listens. It's almost like I said, the fire. You can't hide the fire. You can't pretend the fire.
It's there.
You can't just say कि अच्छा वो fire में अभी I want goddess Kali to. ऐसे नहीं होगा. It has to be that core of your stomach कि बस enough. You can say yeah. So the simplest ways, even if you really connect to that part, that enough.
The desperate call.
The desperate call, and you have to sometimes pause and see कि is this what you want to do?
So, Sneha, as I also wanted to ask, there are many people who want to explore something like this, but they cannot have that burning desire for whatever reasons they have, What would be your advice to those people then? Because, see, for anybody to have, you need that inner hunger for it.
Right.
You need that potential energy for that, There are a lot of people who are in that kinetic energy right now, so how do you then what would be your advice to those people, that how can you work with this dark goddess energies, how you can invoke them, of course they will have to walk the talk,
yes.
But still, how do they continue from where they are, because this, what we are talking, is a person who has reached to a next place.
Yes.
This is somewhere which is a little away from X, going towards X, but away from the X. So how can they expedite this journey, towards that point of X,
So again, it's like I said, we don't have to wait for life for something to happen. It's going to be, doesn't have to be always pain, right? It's about discovery. So if anyone wants to discover more about themselves, they can take on this as a path to discover more, discover themselves. So it's not necessary कि अच्छा वैसा fire ही चाहिए. Of course, the fire will happen. It will always happen. It is going to be the source. But they can start from anywhere. As simple as, like I said, the shadow journaling. But again, it's an individual. Now we can't take somebody and ask कि अच्छा आप shadow journaling करो. थोड़ा सा तो कुछ अपने अंदर से आना चाहिए कि मुझे करना है, right? Because otherwise it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. We've been doing this for years.
Yes.
And unless a participant or a student is ready, कि नो आई वांट टू शिफ्ट समथिंग, थोड़ा सा भी, इतना मैं बोल नहीं रही हूँ कि ऐसे बर्निंग ये, ऑफ कोर्स थोड़ा सा भी रेडी, बट रेडी कि नहीं ये नहीं हो रहा है, मुझे ये एटलीस्ट हील करना है, बहुत हो गया, मेरे रिलेशनशिप्स आर नॉट वर्किंग, आई वांट टू वर्क ऑन दैट. यूज दैट्स अ स्टार्टिंग पॉइंट. फाइंड अ स्टार्टिंग पॉइंट ऑफ व्हाई यू वांट टू डू, और create a larger context कि what is your vision for yourself. We all have this कि मुझे करना क्या है लाइफ में. Deeper questions. When you ask little bit of deeper questions, you start getting the right answers of what is it that you want to do in life, and that kind of starts the process of journeying into yourself. Ki what's coming in the way of you not doing that? That's the journey you're walking towards. So you can start small. You can start journaling. You can start with dancing. You can start anywhere. You can start.
I also wanted to know, in somewhere you mentioned about the moon cycles and the goddess, So full moon, new moon, like Purnima and what is it, the other one? Pause. Amavasya, sorry. I'll start the question again. Yeah. Okay, so I also wanted to know, somewhere you mentioned about the moon cycles, and the power of the goddess energies, the dark goddess energies, So we have the moon cycles like Purnima and Amavas, So how do they enhance the process of, do they even enhance the process of reclaiming the dark? And if they do, then how do they do it?
Okay, lovely question, and very interesting because, when let's go back in time. Before technology, before anything, before all of this, human beings were following the moon cycle. They were following these phases. Yeah, they were deeply connected with nature, you can say. They just knew what was going on, right? So there was a connection going on. So there was no separation from them and nature, which we find a lot in today's time.
Right.
Because we have so many distractions. So हमें समझ ही नहीं आता कि how can we connect with the moon cycle? What is going on, right? But it's so simple. When you look at the moon cycle, this waxing and waning phases, it's just showing us this different cycles that we as a human being experience, right? It's making us understand that it's so natural for us to be outward and inward.
Okay.
It's like, you need to be in that new moon space or the darkness to see what is going on and allow yourself to rise with the full moon.
Okay.
It's the cycle of life. It's a cycle of nature. And when we're following that, which we actually follow, I do that in my Shakti circle. I start 9 nights with the goddess with new moon and 5 with the goddess with full moon. So we're doing that because each day a goddess, the archetype, a phase of the moon is represented by a goddess.
Is it?
Yeah. So when you talk about the Nav Durga, it starts on Amavasya as the intention setting, and the day 1 starts with the first goddess. Then there are 9 archetypes that follow.
Okay.
For the first 9 days. So we're working with different goddess archetypes in that sense. So this is now bringing that ancient wisdom into the modern context so that people can understand how to work with this. Right? Because we've forgotten that, right? Completely, that we are natural people. We were in touch with, lunar cycle, that this death and rebirth is a normal thing, that, destruction and creation is a normal thing. We've forgotten all of that connection. You ask our next day, what are you talking about?
Yeah, yes. Nobody would know. People who are from the healing faculty might know, or people who are in the spiritual wisdom, they might know. But otherwise, I don't think they are looking at that. Actually, even in astrology, the moon is teaching a similar thing. But nobody is kind of, the coming generation or the new generation or anyone who is non-spiritual do not know about that. Which I think our elders or ancestors were very well aware of that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So they made it like we have been taught to fear the dark, and day is fine, dark is scary.
Yeah.
These small things, but it's really has impacted our psyche.
Yeah.
But it's the day and night. It's one cycle.
Yeah.
The whole cycle of the moon also represents the same understanding. So when we start just working with the moon cycle, right? Like just when new moon happens, it's a time of inward. It's darkness, right? You can say it's darkness. It's like going inward. Let's go inward. Yeah. Reflect a little bit. And you'll notice it very naturally, especially if you've done more work and anything. And you'll start noticing कि थोड़ा सा कभी-कभी, ऐसे just I want to be. And there are sometimes when you're like extremely, out there.
Yeah.
And you'll notice they kind of sync with these cycles. Yeah. Technically, moon is full. and moon is there.
Yeah.
It's about understanding the metaphoric,
Phases, yes.
understanding ki the phases are phases of us human beings. We are also going through these phases जो कभी हम अंदर होते हैं फिर थोड़ा बाहर निकलते हैं. So this extrovert and introvert का concept है ना, it can be totally eradicated because we are both technically. Human beings are both extrovert and introvert.
Yeah.
And there is nothing about I'm more introvert and more extrovert. Nothing. So I'm going to stop labeling. Like I said, Maa Kaali, come and stop these labels. We don't need these labels.
You can be anybody you choose to.
You can be anybody you choose to.
Okay.
It's absolutely that. So since ancient times they were connected with this cycle, they had this natural understanding of things, the flow of things. When we work today with this, we connect back to that same cycle. We connect back to our roots in a way. We're allowing nature to, sync with nature. It's a reminder, it's a reflection. So the moon cycles are brilliant. Like I said, intention setting can be done during the dark phase, the inward phase. Dekho, what is it that I want to create? Set your intentions. Otherwise, like I said, life will keep happening, it'll take you here, take you there. But intentional living is possible.
Conscious living
is possible. So sit with it. What is it that's not worked out? What is it that I want to create? Let me set intentions in this direction. Then you work with the 9 days, when I do 9 nights of the goddess, we are working with each goddess archetype and allowing these intentions to manifest with her. Like we're looking at these intentions and seeing what is coming in the way of this aspect of my life. We set 9 sankalpas. I mean, that's my process. 9 sankalpas, and we're working with it with each day. And you'll see some goddess represents that. Maybe it's something to do with your relationship. And when you're connecting with the goddess which is representing that area, then you will bring in a different flavor there because we are working with the rasa. We are working with embodiment, we're doing movement, body movement. Like I mentioned earlier, body is such a vessel to release, to integrate, to feel. So that we're doing that. Then we are connecting with this archetype in the logical mind as well and seeing where have I lost this disconnection with her. So it's a healing journey.
Processes after processes, in fact, actually.
Yes. But the beautiful part of this, like connecting to what you'd asked me earlier, women have done this workshop with me for years. Like some of them have done for 3 years, 4, even like back to back. And they have seen tremendous shift for themselves. And it's now I have a different set of women. Those women have done and they've moved on. But their minds, the way they think, the way they're functioning in the world is so wholesome. I still get those messages saying, love and blessings to you, Maa Durga, this. It's just so beautiful. I mean, I'm grateful for that.
Ignited minds.
Yes, but what I get to see is that wholesomeness, that they are doing what they want to do. They're living life, not small. They're not cribbing anymore. They've understood that their wounds and those things which are, festering.
Yes.
उनको अगर देखो, उनके साथ बैठो, like my workshops are, and everything in Unlom project is so much shadow work. That when you start seeing that and start integrating that, it's not scary anymore. It's all becoming one with you. It's a slow process, but like 9 nights of the goddess journey is a 9-day process. Different people have different
aspects
and starting points. So it's that. But once you understand the cycle for yourself, तो आपको कुछ करने की ज़रूरत. It's with you for life.
Rolls on its own.
It goes on its own.
Also, when you're talking about the moon cycles, I was just thinking, that's just not in our culture, but just generic as a whole. You have Wiccas, Wiccans who follow the moon cycles, and pagans, because they are essentially, paganism is all about connecting with the nature. The whole religion of paganism is nature, So they also follow that. So even in Wicca, we have those witches who are putting up spells, So they also do the intention spells or something, whatever they want to do, they kind of do it on a new moon day. And when they want to release something or when they have a removal kind of a thing, then they do it on a full moon, So somewhere the wisdom universally has been there. Each wisdom is represented in a different way, but that wisdom has been there for eons of years. It was there, it is there, and it will be there. It's just that how we tap into that wisdom and how we work with this, So your way of working with dark energies could be exposing it to this way, or somebody could be this. But essentially moon cycles plays a very good role when we are working with the goddess energies.
Absolutely.
That is what I'm understanding now.
Yes, it is. It works, it brings you into a connection of nature.
Okay.
A connection cycle.
Yeah. Okay, so I also want to know that, at Cosmica, your company, which is the art of living Tantra, you work with both masculine and feminine, and how do these energies complement each other and are in process of healing and self-realization? So what is the technique there, Can you share an example of a union or something like that?
Sure. So one is that so Cosmica is Cosmica is this whole expression of experiencing Tantra in the now, and that's what we have been exploring with a lot of participants. The kind of practices we do in this particular understanding is, if it's a couple, then we get the couple together to explore certain intimate practices with each other. So.
Okay.
And again, we are Tantra is again misunderstood. It's really been misunderstood as only one thing, right? It's only misunderstood as only about sex and physical.
Yeah.
It is. It definitely is. I'm not going to deny it. But it is so much more than just that. Because what we are working, and it's the, it's a lightning bolt path. We come from the school of like Vajrayana, and it's about that lightning bolt path. Means it is the direct path to integrate things.
Okay.
So what that means is we are working on things at a certain level, slowly and all of that. But when we are working as a couple, through this, the whole understanding of body, senses, deeper context, we are able to kind of integrate the wounds in a much more faster way. Because we're working together in the live experience. So we're able to integrate wounds. And what happens with, again, Tantra is that when these practices are happening, a lot comes out. Again, a lot of subconscious comes out really like that.
Is it?
Yes, everything. Like if you think about meditation, what does meditation do? Meditation is not कि शांति हो जाए. Meditation is जो भी अंदर है वो बाहर पहले निकलेगा. And meditativeness is beingness in every moment. It's not a separate act. Okay, but this whole thing, when people do meditation, first thing that happens is they cannot do meditation because so much is coming up, so much is bubbling up, right? Similarly, in Tantra, when these practices bring out a lot of rubbish, which is again your conditioned, sometimes not even your own, your DNA level tak ke matlab your remembrance, your body remembers these pains of the feminine, pains of the masculine. And Tantra allows us to, again, we are working with the dark goddess archetype, Shakti energy, and specifically Maa Kaali, because she's again holding that space. Enough with you
both being separate.
Separating and pointing fingers at each other. It's time for that union. Okay. Right? So Tantra brings in that kind of a union, and again, it's not about just one with the other. Yes, it is about people
not
outside.
The physical union.
It is the internal union. Internal union again of your shadow and your light.
Okay.
So the same thing that we're doing in at Unlom project through our different workshops, where again we're looking at our shadow aspect and this, but the process is longer.
Yeah.
In Tantra, it just happens quickly.
Okay.
Very, very fast. Because it's such an intimate practice, such an intimate connection that you cannot you cannot escape it.
Yeah.
And because it comes up, again, hand holding and space is needed. Because when it comes up, what do we do? How do we deal with it? That's needed. So we hold that space for that. Again, there are practices to release, again, different things that we incorporate in it. And then move to this whole deeper understanding of the masculine feminine union within.
Okay.
So that is the experience. So for example, since you asked for it, on one of our journeys, we had this couple who had come in, and their main issue was that the woman, she was not able to express herself emotionally and was more like in a very space which was she was not able to express herself or share her emotions or what does she want to really speak. And her partner was kind of going inward, separating himself from her because it was too overwhelming for him to handle her emotions. So this is, a very typical understanding. It happens in couples.
So the woman was not able to express herself.
Yes, emotions.
Emotions.
Yeah.
But the husband was moving away because of her emotions.
Okay, one of the examples which I'd like to give was, we had this couple who had come to experience this practice of Tantra through Cosmica. And she had this issue of, she had a lot of emotions which were like surfacing up, totally overwhelmed, out of control. She was not able to handle herself in any way and not able to communicate to her partner her needs as well. And that was resulting in her partner retreating. He was feeling overwhelmed because of her emotions. Like there was so much for him to handle that he was moving away from the relationship as well. So this couple had that dynamic, one person was not able to handle the other person. There was no connection between the two, not able to meet somewhere in the middle. So we got them to do this simple tantric practice, which has been an ancient practice. It's been revered and really used in many tantric schools. It was called the Yab-Yum Practice.
Yab-Yum.
So Yab-Yum is such a beautiful practice. It's not like, you don't need words. Like I was saying, Tantra is the thunderbolt path. It's like this striking path which takes you to that deepest sense of divinity and connection. So just doing this simple practice, and this practice went on for almost like 2 to 3 hours. They didn't even realize that they were doing this practice, but they did the practice for 2 to 3 hours. It was about the practice. So the practice goes something like this. The man is sitting in a posture when the woman is sitting on top of him and holding close.
Embracing each other.
Yes. And this is a very simple way of showing the representation of the masculine who is holding and the feminine who is allowing. So in that process, what happens is you're breathing. You're kind of breathing into a circular breath. You're just connecting with that energy, allowing the masculine and the feminine energy to keep flowing from one person to another. It becomes a circular motion.
Okay.
And slight movements and holding. And it's a very natural process that once you start it, the process just takes over.
Yes.
Yeah, so they didn't even realize that the practice went on for 2 to 3 hours.
Okay.
And when they came out of it, what they really experienced was that he felt his masculine fully and she felt her feminine fully. She felt held. She felt nurtured. She felt like, okay, there is this person, like I can let go. I'm taken care of. And he got his strength of I can hold. I can allow this. And that is the main component. When we're talking in Cosmica, we're talking about a Cosmica man and a Cosmica woman. And these being on the awakened path. So the Cosmica woman is ocean-like. So she's this flow. She's the river. She's moving with the tides. She's expression. She's Shakti. She's creativity. And the Cosmica man is like the river bank, holding the ground, holding that space, bringing in that structure and allowing this flow to happen. And both of them have such important parts, to complete one another, to have that wholesome understanding. And that is what they experienced as a couple for the first time, after like having all this turmoil of not able to meet at one point, to be able to, without communication, transcend into this understanding of like
emote.
Yes. To really, be able to emote, feel, express in the body and unsaid words, but felt to the to the depths,
core,
to the core, and that is healing. So Tantra really quickly heals you in that aspect. So it's a beautiful path. But again, it's not an easy path. It's only for the ready ones. You need a lot of context for Tantra, because what's happening in today's world is a lot of misinterpretation. It's just become about one practice, which is a sexual practice. But it's not been told why. When Tantra was born, it was about the Siddhas meeting the yoginis at the riverbanks.
True.
And why Siddhas? Because they were completely... Yes, they had attained everything. You talk about nirvana. You talk about, that they were in that space. And then after meeting the yoginis, it further got transmuted into a whole understanding. But without context, when you're not whole and you try to do Tantra, then you're kind of messing with the energy. So you need, again, guidance for this. So you need to be guided. You need to have context of why you're doing this, your intention behind it. Some practices which kind of bring you into discipline, you become more ready to take on, deeper works like Tantra. So yeah, it's got tremendous potential to heal.
Yeah, I know the Yab-Yum position is one of the most first practices, initial practices that normally the Tantra, and you start your journey with the Yab-Yum process. And it's a very empowering process, Yes. I have seen a lot of transformations at the very onset of the program. Yes. We see a lot of transformation happening. And of course, then it's going on a deeper level also, like I'm in. So that is an amazing way, because also now that this point has come, I want to tap into another part, which is a little different from what we are talking, but it's still that when you are in that comfort zone of, the women expressing themselves, the feminine expressing herself very, wholesomely and very freely and without any fear, she's at her ease, the flow is her nature, and the Shiva, which is the Yab, kind of, he's holding her and giving her the space, and at that point of time, as you progress into some of the things, so as I said, this is the onset of it. I think the orgasm that happens at that point of time, as you progress from the Yab-Yum position to another aspects of Tantra, I think it also opens somewhere your spiritual doors, because
Absolutely.
there's a constant flow.
Yes.
Right from the sacral chakra to your crown chakra, it happens, so that, I think one of the reason of why sexual activity or sex, which is really very divine, is because it opens the portal between the sacral chakra and the crown chakra.
Yes. Yes. And that is the main aspect. That's what people miss out. Sex has now become just an activity, some kind of a release, some kind of a makes me feel good for a moment, but it's divine. There's divinity there. It can take you to such transcended levels of spiritual experience, and it's so much. And during these practices, like the Yab-Yum can go on for 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours.
Yes.
So it's literally not even about the orgasm, but the orgasmic state.
Yeah.
And that orgasmic state has that much potential to heal. Yeah. And that energy just flows through you, through your entire being. Yeah. And yes, orgasm also is a part of it, if like you said, deeper practices.
Yes.
And that orgasm is really like a doorway. It's a doorway to that, even Osho's written a book, right?
Yeah.
Which is From Sex to Super Consciousness.
Samadhi.
Yes.
Some books
Sex to Samadhi.
Yeah.
So it is that potent. It is that potent. Just that right now, because of not so much of understanding, there are these different methods people are coming and doing under the name of Tantra. So that's why it's very important for an individual to have that discernment. And again, I would like to say Maa Kaali helps with discernment. And in today's world, nothing else is important but to have this discernment, the ability to identify what is good for you, what is not, not to get caught up in labels. Is this real or is this real? That discernment is so essential, because then you'll walk on that, your life's path with the truth of it, with the authentic pull to it, not because it's being like there. You can go really in a focused way. Very important to work on yourself in that deep way.
That takes a lot of courage and a lot of persistence, a lot of determination, to actually the ability to walk the talk.
Yes. Absolutely.
And not only that, but move past that, So, but I think the moment you start with something like this, when you tap into the dark and, the potential or the dark goddess, I think she also gives you the wisdom, the inspiration, the courage,
Yes.
She also gives you that, like
Absolutely.
I have worked with Maa Kaali. I mean, it was not that I wanted to work with Maa Kaali, but I got to know that I'm working with Maa Kaali. So it just happened one of the day. And what happened after that, it just went with the flow. And there were times when I would terrified and I would hear things like, it's okay, I will there. Or sometimes there would be a friend who would out of the blue do an Akashic reading for me, and they would say some things, or there would be just some oracle reading that I do for myself, So she's been a persistence guidance. So again, all those people who are trying to walk the path, it would be right to say that, if you don't choose to walk the path, Maa Kaali chooses you. How can you elaborate on that, because that will give a lot of hope and inspiration to all the people who would want to walk the path but may fear or may have some doubts about themselves,
So in today's times, when all of this is happening, when the world has really reached this point of complete chaos, complete confusion, a lot of rising is happening. It's like the divine dark goddess is just rising in different parts, not just in the world, different pockets. It's happening because it's high time. People are awakening right now to the fact कि ये सब क्या है, ये सब जो हम लोग फंसे हुए हैं, जो हमारे इतने बड़े बड़े problems हम लोग लेके बैठे हैं, ये सब क्यों है, क्या है? People are awakening to this. And that's why in pockets it's just happening, you know. In fact, when I started my journey about like some time ago, I remember that some of the major influences in the people who had done a lot of depth work were even from the West.
Yes.
Who had really deeply connected with this goddess energy. And what I was experiencing that time and what I was going through that time, I was able to, you know, relate and understand, okay, this is what exactly I've been going through and have, you know, transformed. So these pockets have been happening for years now. And now it's just expanding. This understanding ki feminine and not this, you know, any other way, not any shadowy part. It's all coming forth. And I think that's the symbol. You know, we're talking about Kali Yuga. It's Kali's Yuga. It's basically about it is time for absolute transformation. Abhi ho gaya, ye way of working. Your relationships are not working. You're not satisfied in your job. Own it and see it fully. Nothing is really working. You're insecure. You're afraid. See it. And it's really time for a global shift because all these things, we're talking about wars, climate conditions, situations that we are experiencing. If interconnectedness is not established, we are doomed. And that's why she's rising more and more. That's why you see that, you know, like I got to experience, there are many pockets. I understood this. It's so beautiful to know that she's got place in the whole world. It's not just India. She's everywhere.
Yeah.
And that is her symbol, an act of rebellion. And today's world needs a rebellious spirit so that you can break through these illusions. Illusions are just building one above the other. So that spirit is coming.
Also, it's a time for us to break the matrix and to see the truth, the absolute truth and reality, and break the shackles of the distorted realities that we see. So, with that, my last question for you today would be, though I have many more questions, but this I have to kind of ask the last question, which would be, how do you kind of see your vision for the divine feminine and its awakening and the whole movement that, like you said, that it's all across in the deep pockets, you know. So how do you see that happening, and what will be the role of divine feminine in the wake of all, and how is she going to help all of us, you know, because we are seeing that for sure the changes are happening.
Yes, it's extremely pivotal. It's extremely crucial, like I said. It's this time that requires the most attention. And when I look at divine feminine, I don't know to call it a movement or what do we call it, but it's this awakening. If every woman, every man wakes up to their inner Shakti, wakes up to this divine intuitive guidance that they all naturally have, right? Like even for a man to awaken his Shakti is healing those parts of the masculine which are told that no, you can't be emotional, you can't show, you have to only be rigid.
You can't cry.
You can't cry.
Yeah.
It's telling them to own. So Dark God is saying, own your emotions. Replace it with compassion.
Also, one of the point is, you know, I have seen, you know, in times when men as kids, when they are told, do not cry. Most of the time it is being told by their mothers or aunts or whoever, very rarely uncles, but okay, whoever it is. But these are the men who grow up being completely non-expressive, and then their counterparts or their wives or girlfriends, they come, he is not expressive because he was taught that way.
Exactly, and this is the situation of every man.
Yeah.
Mostly, when you really see, they're just like, but as soon as you're a boy, you're like with this armor that boys don't cry. No. In fact, when they are vulnerable, when they're expressive, they hold such deep, beautiful spaces that everybody can thrive through it. Cutting them off from their emotions is the biggest mistake we have done. A man needn't be, you know, that's what we're saying. We are represented, a man means someone who's strong like this, physically looking strong.
Mard ko dard nahi hota.
And someone who's like always like assertive, will always, no. Men have the ability to hold so much, and that has been taken away from them. They just have to either play this image that I'm strong.
Is it purposely being removed from this whole construct?
Yeah,
so that the men are disconnected from their wholeness.
Again, you can say it just became that influential thing, you know, like patriarchal systems bringing in, showing that, okay, a man is to take care of a woman, that becoming the overpowering the other aspect, that woman needs to be taken care of.
Yes.
So that's why it's warped. A woman then has become so small that she's asking the man to take care of her shadow aspects, not the divine aspects.
Yes.
She's saying, I'm insecure, you take care of it. No. She has to rise. The man doesn't have to do that for another person. We have cut them off. Definitely men are experiencing worse sometimes than women.
Yeah, because I'm sensing they're having worse
times. Because when you look at the statistics of the number of suicides, it's highest in men. Number of crimes, highest in men.
Yeah.
And they are suffering so much more than a woman, because at least we are getting to express and share in whichever way we cry. Nobody tells us it's okay. But for men, they don't have room to express. And that shadow mask, and the ideal man is that picture has to be destroyed. He's not like this strong, aggressive, on top, forceful. No. A man, like you can say, an awakened man is this gentle, earthy, grounded, strong, but not that strong which is a outward projection. He's got inner strength, you know, and that is the space that thrives, that everybody thrives in. Yeah, you say.
I was just thinking of one of the things is about, narcissism mostly seen in men, and it basically is, the men is so fragile. The cause of this distortion that has happened, I think, is leading to more and more of narcissist men, arising of narcissist men, because the men are so fragile. They have to have an image. They need to protect that image. The fragile part is becoming so deep that they are becoming more and more stronger in projecting narcissism, because there's a big ego that they need to defend, So my understanding is that, if any people, like narcissists, if they want to, can they let go of their narcissism if they come to know about it? But even if they come to know about it, how can they let go of their narcissism? Because an awakened man versus a narcissist man, a man can choose to be from a narcissism to an awakened man. How will the dark energies, because I think this is a very lot of people in the relationship are experiencing this. So how can this dark goddess energy can help, with this?
I think women play a very important part in this aspect.
Okay.
They really need to hold space for their men. Because this narcissism, ye aaya kahan se, right? This is celebrated. We all are a part of this celebration. We celebrate the narcissistic men because they are on the top. They are successful. They have the money. They can throw around anything. It's like that, right? And we celebrate that. People are looking up. That is power. That's what I meant by the shadow aspect. And people are looking up to that kind of a trait as power. And if you want to be in a place of power, you want to be successful, then you need to be narcissistic. And when someone is in that place, we are clapping.
Oh,
all of us are clapping. So we're celebrating.
We are validating it.
Yes. So the time when a woman wakes up to her Shakti and sees the damage that is done, because now again we can't go back and say men ne kiya, women ne kiya, in ne kiya. You can't do that. It's gone. That is gone. It is just a motion that's been happening. We're just interchanging these blame games, right? But when a woman can come into her Shakti and truly see how she is responsible, or how she can shift this, because when her Shakti rises, she is the vessel of, like I said, she's a flow of energy.
Flow of energies, yes.
So if she's able to awaken that energy within herself, it naturally will help her, the men in her life, to heal those parts, to feel held, to not need to manipulate or play these kind of games. That is possible as a shift. Because a woman really holds that potential. But right now, like I said, a woman herself is in a shadow masculine.
True.
So it's very challenging that way. But if people start awakening to their inner Shakti, their intuition, their guidance, listen to those voices which says, what is this we are doing? Should we do something? Like, listen to that voice. It's a possible shift for the narcissism to shift into something, or transcend into something beautiful.
Yes.
Because it's not their fault. They're not doing this because they were born that way. We have created them. We need to take ownership. Everybody has to take ownership for that.
So that brings us to so much of information that we had today. And it brings us to the end of the podcast, where we really, really want to thank you for showering us with so much of information, the gold nuggets that you have about so much of different principles, and how we can use the inner Shakti, how we can tap into ourselves and use this, and not only change but upgrade ourselves, and with ourselves how we can be a resonance to the society and help more and more people with our own frequency and vibration. That, I think, is an immense power of the dark goddess energies. We call it a Maa Kaali, or we call Hecate, or we call Lilith, but these women embodiments, they have so much of strength, so much of courage, and so much of power. They are actually able to break a lot of obstacles and shackles and lot of limiting beliefs. So when we invoke into that power, we are creating so much space for ourselves and for the society. And on a global level, we are upgrading everybody. And you have been a beacon of light for this, Dr. Sneha S, and I would really, really appreciate, and thank you for coming for this podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure, and thank you for having me.